Hello and welcome to this super special first birthday anniversary podcast of James Bond Radio. It's an exciting time, isn't it, Chris?
It's an amazingly, stupendously, ecstatically, orgasmically exciting time.
I feel like over the last year, personally, my Bond knowledge and appreciation has just grown to new, even higher levels than it ever was before.
That's interesting, actually. I'd never really thought about that in that respect, because obviously we've both been Bond fans for a long time. But it's true, and I think obviously we've learned quite a lot as we've gone along. But it's also about embracing the brethren and sisterhood of Bond family all over the world, and it adds to it, doesn't it? It just creates that.
It does. I feel like most Bond fans are kind of almost alone in their daily lives. They're not around other Bond fans all that much. Do you know what I mean? They're all sort of individual kind of, some might be considered weirdos. I know I've been certainly considered a bit of a weirdo by people in the past because of the deepness of the passion. But once you see how many other really insane Bond fans there are out there and bring them all together by the power of this podcast, I think it's a beautiful thing.
I think it's good. Do you know what I just flashed into my mind then?
Go on.
Imagine if you were walking down the street and you could see who was a Bond fan. They were there was a light shining from the sky and it would just go, ah, there's one, ah, there's one, and so on. It would be interesting just to see.
It would be good because I don't feel like you can tell otherwise. It's not
no, you can't.
Usually football fans, for example, they'll all wear their kit out and about in town, whereas I feel like Bond fans are all different shapes and sizes. There's no way
different shapes and sizes, different ages, different male, female. All it's everyone under the sun can be a Bond
every walk
fan.
of life. So before we start today's super special anniversary podcast, we wanted to begin by humbly thanking you, our wonderful listeners, because when we first started off this podcast, I think the first episode had maybe 100 downloads or something like that, and we were expecting 10. And since that
we were so excited. We were so excited to get that 100, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
Come on.
and then here we are, a year later, and the numbers have gone through the roof, beyond what we'd ever dreamed of. So thank you for sticking by us and listening, and thanks for getting in touch over the Facebook and the Twitter and the emails and all that kind of stuff. It's always good fun to hear from you guys. So just from the bottom of our hearts, Chris, because otherwise it would just be me and you, a pair of Muppets sitting here pleasuring ourselves into a microphone every week, and it's just nice to know
which is kind of what it is already.
I suppose it is, isn't it? But it was just a few thousand people sitting there listening to it or watching it, which is somewhat questionable now. I've thought of that. Yeah. But there we go. So thank you, JBR listeners. Yeah. We salute you.
Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and hopefully we'll have a year to come that will be just as good.
Absolutely. Let's roll the theme tune.
Who are you?
My name's Bond. James Bond.
Bond. James Bond. Oh, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British hand up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy.
As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Okay, so today's episode, as you might have guessed, is all about the fans and the listeners of Bond. So basically what we've got is 6 of our listeners who were chosen at random to come on the show and be interviewed. That's 6 of our Facebook and Twitter users. And we've got them each with a little segment, an interview segment, where we run through the 007 Quickfire Questions and find out what Bond means to them, which is really good fun. It's the first time we've ever done something like that, and I think it was a complete success so far.
Yeah, it's a first time, but definitely not the last time. I mean, when we had the idea and we put it out, I think we had, the first count was 44 names, 44 people put themselves forward to want to be a part of it. Did the whole, names in the sombrero to pull them out. Obviously, we can't do 40 people for each podcast because it would be like a 12-hour podcast. And
Exactly.
I know some people might love a 12-hour podcast, but not everyone's bath. Your bath water will get cold. Your drive to work's not 12 hours unless you're really, really unlucky. So, we have to keep it to a certain time frame if we can.
Yeah, I mean, 3 hours tops in it. Mark O'Connell always listens to us in the bath, he said. So, we don't want him to get all shriveled up and wrinkly, do we?
No. definitely
there we go.
not. I think 3 hours is probably the upper limit of that before it starts to.
So we're 32 episodes in now, which is incredible. So do you have any favourite James Bond radio moments? Like what's been the most memorable thing over the last year that's happened throughout the podcast?
That's quite a toughie. I mean, there's been a lot in terms of the actual podcast that we've done. I really enjoyed the Lost Music of Bond, one of our earlier ones. Because again, that was finding some stuff that I hadn't heard before. It kind of had the what if factor to it. And yeah, I really enjoyed that one. That was a good one. The interviews I've just been amazed by. I've been flabbergasted, not only by who we've managed to interview, but how literally everyone who we have interviewed has been really, really nice, like informative. You know, they know their stuff. They've all been Bond fans. And just been a pleasure to sort of be able to do that, really. Yeah,
I think meeting Norman Wanstall was amazing, and just finding out what a dude he is, and all the amazing stories. I could just listen to that over and over again. I feel like we could make another 5 podcasts with Norman, and they'd all be equally as exciting as the first one. That was great. Yeah. I think my standout moments for me personally would be the whole Battle for Bond and the Sylvan episode. Just because that was a whole sort of side of things that I kind of knew a bit about and thought I knew everything about, and I didn't even scratch the surface of what actually went on there. I think going to Sylvan's house and seeing all that stuff just blew my mind. All the stories from Robert Sellers were great. I think that's probably my favourite 2 episodes in terms of discovering new stuff, at least. Yeah.
Definitely, that they have to be right up there. I just remember, obviously, some of the stuff we got to see and hold, and some of the pictures as well, and obviously the Thunderbolt script. We had that in our hands, and it was like, my God, that was so cool. Yeah. So I mean, that was amazing.
Holding Norman's Oscar as well, man. That was pretty intense, wasn't it? That was some cool stuff.
That's quite an innuendo you're doing there.
Yeah. Well, you've got a dirtier mind than me, Chris. I thought that was impossible, but there we go. Yeah, I would have done if he'd have offered it up. So it's been an exciting year, and we've got some more interviews lined up over the next year, and all that kind of stuff. So there's plenty more to come. And to be honest, I don't see. I know a lot of podcasts almost have a beginning and an end, but I don't see there being an end to James Bond Radio. I think it's if we stopped making James Bond Radio, I would miss it so much that I would have to just sit there talking to myself on a microphone all day. Otherwise,
I think. What else could you do? I mean, you put your microphone on, look in the mirror and just chat, and then feel really sad.
Yeah, I've said it before though. I think this is almost a form of therapy, in the sense that I can get it all out of my system and be like, oh right, I can just think about normal things for 2 weeks now. It's almost like making love to a lady, Chris. That's how I would put it. Except you're a lot more masculine and handsome than a lady would be.
Well, that's a very pleasant way of putting it, I guess. But thank you very much.
No worries. So if you're wondering about this whole guest listener interview thing, if you're not on our Facebook and Twitter, then you wouldn't have heard anything about it if you're just purely a listener. So what we did was we put the word out on the Facebook and the website to come and leave a comment on the page, and if we would choose the names randomly out of a hat, and that's exactly what we did. So if you're wondering what on earth we're talking about, that's all the more reason to get involved on Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you do that. So come like us on Facebook. Make sure you put James Bond Radio into the search. Twitter, we're at James Bond Radio. And you can come to the website as well, and there's blogs and news posted there and all that kind of stuff. That's jamesbondradio.com, and you can also leave us a voicemail on there if you want to be on the show, so come to the website and do that. And last but not least, even if you're not an iTunes user, come and leave us a lovely glowing 5-star review on iTunes, because that really helps us to rank higher and attract more listeners and all that kind of stuff. So before we get into the meat of today's episode, we've got some important news that's been a long time coming and much requested by our listeners, and we thought the first anniversary would be the perfect time to do that. And what is that news, Chris?
That news, Tom, is that for our 1-year anniversary, James Bond Radio will be launching a James Bond Radio t-shirt.
Yeah!
Now we have two. We have one design t-shirt, but we have a t-shirt cut for the gentleman and a t-shirt cut for the lady. It's up to the listeners as to which one they choose.
You don't have to be bound by your genitalia. You can, if you're a man, you can get the ladies' t-shirt if you want, and vice versa.
Yeah, so it's everyone's game for all.
Absolutely. So if you go to jamesbondradio.com/t-shirt, then you'll go to the correct page. Now, what we're doing is we're doing it through a website called Fabrily.com, who are kind of like a t-shirt kind of printing thing, and it almost works like Kickstarter in the sense that you, because we wanted to test demand and stuff, you've got to sell a certain amount of t-shirts before they're actually made. So there's a minimum order of 50. So basically, if you head over to that link, I'll say it again, jamesbondradio.com/t-shirt. We've got to sell a minimum.
Is that t-shirt with a T and a hyphen and a shirt, or just t-shirt?
It's just all one word, T, the letter T, and shirt. TSHIRT. There it is. I spelled it right.
Glad you got the R in.
Yeah, indeed. So absolutely. So in order to get the t-shirt produced, we have to sell 50 of them. So if you want a JBR t-shirt, then head on over to that link now and get involved. And then you can sport your t-shirt when you're out in public, and that would be a way that you can spot your fellow Bond fans because they'll have the JBR t-shirt on.
That is a very good point.
Though, one thing we should mention is that unfortunately, you can't actually have any item of merchandise with the name James Bond on it, because then Barbara will come around knocking on your door with a sledgehammer and sort you out, kind of thing. So we had to sort of abbreviate the name a little bit on the t-shirt, but it looks great. It's a brilliant design. I really like it. It looks really cool, and I think you'll like it too. And our listeners and viewers will notice that we've had a little logo update as well, haven't we, Chris?
We have indeed, yeah. This is to coincide with the 1 year anniversary, and it's just sprucing things up a little, isn't it?
Doing a little sprucing, absolutely. A little fresh look for 2015 and the year of Roger and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
And also, in regards to the T-shirts, it's not just for UK only. There is an option for people overseas as well to get them as well.
Absolutely. It's available worldwide. So again, I'm going to give the link one more time, Chris. I'm not going to mess it up. Go to jamesbondradio.com/t-shirts. And then you can order your JBR t-shirt. And when you get them, make sure you take a photo with you in them and surrounded by your Bond memorabilia, and post a photo on Facebook as well.
That's a great idea. Yeah, t-shirt surrounded by Bond memorabilia, or if you happen to be on a Bond location, rocking it up. That would be great. Yeah, we should get some good photos.
Damn right, excellent stuff. Yeah. So, in other news, before we talk about the latest Bond 24 news and all that kind of stuff, the new member of the JBR team is our lead news correspondent from Station C in Canada, Miss Linda Zhu, who is our new Bond blog news person. And basically every week she's doing a little feature on the website called This Week in Bond, which is a roundup of all the Bond news from that week. And that's not just like new Bond film stuff. It's like, whatever Pierce has been up to, or Roger, or any of the other guys have been up to, and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you keep your eye on jamesbondradio.com and keep up with Linda's correspondence, and make sure you leave her comments as well, because she puts a lot of effort into the news roundup. So it's good to see some feedback on there as well.
They're always interesting blogs as well, and some of the stuff that she finds, you won't have heard of before as well. So it is all good stuff. And it's funny when you mentioned her as our new news correspondent. I picture her with like a notepad and a pen and like a hat with a sign saying news journalist or something, and a little, all the gear on and stuff. But
there you go. Yeah. There you go, Linda. You need to get yourself a Trilby hat and a little white press card to put in your hat band. There you go. Good stuff.
That's cool.
So it's speculation time, isn't it? Bond 24 time. So I guess speculation. So let's give the little warning like we did last time, and we're going to have a little point here where we're editing the time reference to skip to, and if you don't want to hear anything about Bond 24. So if you want to skip the speculation this week, go to
30 minutes and 45 seconds.
Okay. You're still here with us. Good stuff.
Just the cool kids. The cool kids.
Just the cool kids.
Anyone that's not here, they don't know it, but they're not as cool as you.
They're not as cool, are they? Skipping forward, hey?
I know. Who would do that, hey?
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
All right, cool. So what have you got for us this week then, Chris?
Speculation news for this time. Okay, so we've got some pretty quite a lot of good stuff, actually. A lot of this revolves around cast, okay?
Okay.
So initial news is principal cast have finished now shooting in Austria. So they've all gone back. They're now in Pinewood, working on the next scenes, whatever they may be. Second unit is still in Austria, pretty much wrapping up, but they're shooting, obviously, the action scenes that don't require any of the immediate cast. So in terms of where SPECTRE is, Austria is going to be wrapped pretty soon. completely, that is. So in terms of speculation casting, now we did hear a rumour. In fact, it was even before our last podcast was released, but it was after we recorded it, I think. So we just kind of missed it. But there was rumour, speculation, of Penelope Cruz, of all people, having a small cameo in the pre-title sequence, playing an agent character called Estrella. So what do you think about that, Tom?
That's interesting, isn't it? Now, when I heard Penelope's name bandied about in the paper as the Bond girl, I was like, bollocks, there's no way they'll go with somebody like that. Too big of a name. And I don't know, this one sort of reared its head again. And
first time it was. We heard it like almost last summer, didn't we?
Yeah.
And everyone was a bit like, oh, what's this about? But now it's come back again, and it's
and it's different. If it's just a little cameo, I don't know. Yeah. I'm in two minds about it, man. It depends how they do it, but things like that, you know, small cameos of big name actors, you know, it smells a bit of Madonna in Die Another Day. Do you know what I mean? It takes you out of things. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, man.
I don't think it will be like Madonna in Die Another Day. I think it will be she'll be like, you know, equivalent of Cigar Girl in The World Is Not Enough. You know, it's just within the pre-title sequence. It's not a big role, but and I think her role will be something like that. Hopefully it will be. But then she's also got the link, obviously, Javier Bardem, who was, you know, on good terms with Mendes and Craig. So that sort of could add weight to it, perhaps. So, you know, we don't know for sure, but I would certainly have nothing against it. I think she's a great actress. And if it is more in the sort of role similar to the Cigar Girl as opposed to like a Madonna cameo, then I'd be all for it.
Yeah.
So,
for those who don't know, Penelope Cruz is obviously Mrs. Bardem, isn't she?
She is indeed. Yeah.
So that's the link there.
Okay, so in casting news, which has actually been confirmed, British actress Bridget Miller, who was in one of the Harry Potter films, Order of the Phoenix, I think it was, she joined the cast of SPECTRE. In fact, Linda, our news correspondent, did a little write-up about it.
She did.
And she is playing an undisclosed villainous role. Now, if you get to see a picture of Bridget Miller, she almost looks evil, and that's not being disrespectful to her, but she's got that sort of look. It's almost kind of pale, a little bit skeletal, long brown hair, but eyes are quite sort of menacing in a way. So straight away you're thinking, okay, great, she could be quite good. You know, we've got SPECTRE, we know that. We might have a Blofeld. Could she potentially be an Irma Bunt type character? Who knows, you know, working for the big man or potentially the big woman upstairs, you know. She, again, I mean, obviously, if there is a Blofeld, could there be an Irma Bunt? I know we've kind of mentioned this before. I think the only character for me that I would reintroduce is Blofeld. I think everyone else around that should be new characters. Yeah,
it's interesting,
that's
isn't it?
That's personally how I feel.
Because Bunt is Mrs. Blofeld, isn't she? Essentially, like in the You Only Live Twice book, they're shacked up together.
That's true, actually. Yeah, so that is true.
She is an important figure as far as Blofeld is concerned, though not really represented by that in the movies so far, but in the books she was.
It's strange. Yeah. It would be strange if it was the same name. I think that character, the Blofeld, you know, if he did have a lady or a woman or anything like that, I think that character could be there. If the name was used, Irma Bunt, I wouldn't be sure. I mean, this is all, you know...
It would be a bit jarring.
So, it would be a bit strange. So we're not sure. What we do know about her is that she's shooting scenes in Pinewood and in Rome. So we know that her character will be featured around there. Okay. So in other casting news, Detlef Both, I do apologise if that's not the correct pronunciation. Name, isn't it? Yeah, he's also joined the SPECTRE cast. He's a German actor, and he's another one who has a great sort of villainous look about him. He's bald in the picture of him, and he looks like sort of a jerk. You know, he's played a lot of Nazis in films before, and he's got that sort of look about him. He's quite a bit older. He's a cross between sort of maybe your typical Nazi German in a film and Oromov from Goldeneye. It's kind of like a merge of those two sort of type characters.
He looks like a villainous type henchman type character.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Now on IMDb, his character name is listed as Man in Cable Car. So obviously he was shooting scenes in Austria. man in cable car, so villainous sort of person. We know there's something around that. Now, what this next potential line could be seen as a big spoiler.
Okay.
Well, to some people maybe. So I'm going to say it because it's not.
We've already put the warning out, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. It's not a huge spoiler, but it could be. Basically, it's been rumoured that his character is chasing Q in Austria in the scene that he shot. So that tells us a few things. That tells us that one, Q's scene is in the field in Austria. Whether that's just him after having seen Bond or about to see Bond or whatever, we're not 100% sure. And it also sort of tells us that this guy, it brings Q not just in the field but into the action for the first time.
Yeah,
obviously, we had him in License to Kill, where he had his little disguises and a few little gadgets. But in terms of actually him being in danger, this will be the very first time that Q, the character, is in danger, which is nice because it brings, again, another little thing to it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
what do you
absolutely.
think about that?
No, that's nice. I'm all for the kind of core crew being involved. When I say crew, I mean, the MI6 kind of supporting cast. I'm all for them being involved a bit more. I feel like there's a danger that it could be overdone. Like, I've had enough of Moneypenny in the field with Skyfall. I don't need to see that again for a while. No. I feel like maybe each of the guys could have like a shine in the spotlight. I would like to see, I feel like if Q's mission is to go and drop something off to Bond, and then as he's leaving, somebody tells him, and there's a bit of danger there. I think that's a great idea, and it's funny that hasn't been explored before, really, isn't it? That would be fresh.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I think it would be really good, and it is nice to have, like with M and Moneypenny, they've been in the field but quite infrequently. Q's been in the field quite a lot in the films, but to have that little twist to it, I think is really good. So yeah, I mean, again, speculation. It's not 100% confirmed, but that is something that could happen.
I tell you what, I don't want to see on that front. I want to see a lot more of Gareth Mallory. But I want to see him in the classic M scenes. I don't want to see him running around with a gun. You know what I mean?
You want to see him behind his desk, dishing out the orders.
Yeah, being a bit grumpy.
Being a bit grumpy. Yeah. Putting Bond in his place and stuff like that. Yeah, and hopefully with a little folder that gives him his mission file. Another thing I'd love to see, just off the cuff. I don't know. I mean, it might not happen with SPECTRE, but I would love to see Bond using his Universal Exports cover again. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a long time. We haven't had that
for a long time, and it's as relevant today as it could have been back then.
Well, I tell you what though, it was used very subtly in Quantum of Solace in his ID card when he shows it. It says Universal Exports on there, but it's never been mentioned for a long time.
But for him to say it and as the cover would be quite cool. But anyway, I digress. So again, another casting note that we have here. This was something I noticed on IMDb, but I hadn't actually heard about. A Bulgarian actress, Neve Gachev. Again, apologies if that's not correct. So she's been cast in the film, and her role is listed as clinic patron. So clinic patron. So you think clinic, is that like hospital, medical sort of thing?
Shrublands, maybe?
Shrublands, maybe something along those lines. Now, she is actually in Kingsman, the new sort of young Bond almost type film, which I haven't seen. I don't think you've seen yet. We're going to see it soon. I'm probably going to see it next week, and I can't wait because I think we should do a mini review of it. But she was in that. But if you have a look at her, she looks remarkably similar to Monica Bellucci, almost like a younger sort of version of Monica Bellucci. Maybe not quite Monica Bellucci, but
reminiscent of.
Yeah, she's got echoes of Monica Bellucci, which is always a good thing in my book.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd get on board with that.
Yeah, without a doubt. So in terms of sort of casting, that wraps up the sort of casting sort of thing. Now, we've also, obviously, we know that Jesper Christian is back as Mr. White. This will be a third Bond film for Mr. White. Now, JBR listener Tobias Gould-Killen kindly left us.
You're really being put through the mill with these pronunciations of names this week, aren't you, dude?
But I'm nailing everyone, Tom. I'm nailing everyone. No, but good old Tobias, he helpfully translated a link from a Danish tabloid called BT, who had interviewed Jesper about SPECTRE, about the film and about the role. So I'm just going to go through a little bit about what he said. So thanks for Tobias for this. So one of the things that Jesper said was, this is regarding his scene. So it sounds as if it only was in one scene.
Okay.
It's not much, but it was bloody fun to be back on set. Now that's interesting because, as some of us will remember, just post Quantum of Solace, he was getting a little bit of grumbles out there. I don't know if it was misinterpreted by the reporters or if he actually wasn't happy or what the case was, but it sounds like he's far happier now than he might have been after Quantum of Solace.
Right, I've got some serious levels of speculation coming up right now.
Oh, here we go. Come on then, let's go.
If we look at that quote,
yeah,
it's not much. So, like you say, he's not going to be in much of the film, but it was bloody fun to be back on set. Bloody fun is in parentheses, in little inverted commas. So, do you know what my speculation is, Chris? And I'll be very excited if it is. Right,
I love it.
My speculation is this: Jesper, Mr. White, reports to Blofeld, but Blofeld isn't very happy with his performance. So he kills him in front of all the other Spectre people.
In a very bloody way.
Yeah, that's my prediction.
Love it.
That whole Thunderball scene. I'm very badly burned. Yeah. Because, and I tell you something else, right?
Right, go on.
Obviously, if you start slagging off Bond, right?
Yeah.
Then the Eon Productions crew aren't going to be that happy with you. So
probably not.
Even though he was like a key figure in those two movies, and they obviously need him for something relating to this story to tie it into Quantum, they must have thought, well, we kind of need him, but he's an arsehole, so let's just kill him off as soon as we can. Yeah. And that's why he's only got a short scene. That's
I tell you what, I think that is a really astute prediction, and I think you could be right. And if you are, I'd be really happy because so long as it is a creative sort of death, something that's cinematic and you're like, wow, look at that. But it could be that, maybe he didn't confirm whether he died or he didn't die. So if he didn't, perhaps Mr. White has possibly a fourth Bond film in the canon. But I think I'd prefer to go with your assumption and maybe that's how it was. But interestingly, he followed up that line with a comment which was, yes, the scene was damn fine. And him, Sam Mendes, I think very highly of. So it was really fun. He is the type of a director I like. He listens and talks and rewrites. So clearly he's in a happier place. He likes Sam Mendes. Things are going well. So maybe he wasn't happy about something previously, whatever that might have been. He seems to have been got over it, sort of thing.
We'll have to try and dig out that quote. I can't remember exactly what he says, but he just basically said Bond films were rubbish, didn't he?
Basically.
So
what a thing to say, though.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
What an idiot. What an idiot.
But anyway, okay, so he couldn't say much about his role, but he did say that Spectre personally has been the best Bond experience of them all, and he did have the chance to suggest lines that he felt would be appropriate for his character. So this is him in quotes, okay? So, yes, pride knew no bounds. When I was able to sit and suggest lines in English, I was very impressed with myself. Not only to suggest, but also get them accepted. So that was great. More than that, I can't reveal. So he obviously was impressed with himself for choosing lines and getting them accepted. But fair play, obviously if he thought he knew about the character and could get some lines out, then that's great. So yeah, again, he's having time. He's being able to interact with the director and get some lines. If you're an actor, you want to kind of influence your character. So he felt he's done that. So that's good. Now, Jesper also commented on the security and secrecy when dealing with a Bond script not yet in the public domain. So he said, "You are not allowed to send anything with mail. My script was highlighted Jesper Christensen with a number on every page in the script, so they know if it is you who is leaking something. Then they show up with 600 lawyers, if you do."
Yeah.
So obviously, every script that's sent out, it's coded. This is who it's for. If anything's been photocopied or scanned or emailed or whatever, they're like, "Ha, he did it. Let's go bust his ass."
Yeah, absolutely, and rightly so, man. It's tricky enough keeping things secret in this day and age. So I suppose you've got to keep it as tight as you possibly can.
Yeah, too right. So he continues then to explain about Eon. They are so paranoid you can't even imagine, but it is with good reasons because the hysteria around this Bond universe is massively big. On the internet, Bond is almost a religion that lots of people have opinions about. They got their earlier draft of the script stolen in Sonygate, so I can very well understand their paranoia. So, yeah, there we go. I mean, it is almost like a religion to certain people, isn't it? You've heard the whole new religion with the Jedi religion, and there were loads of Star Wars fans that did that. I know Bond, it hasn't got the sort of mythical religious type thing, but there is just a huge following.
Do you know what? I think it's very appropriate because, for example, a lot of people will follow Jesus, for example, and they would say, what would Jesus do in this situation? Whereas I know I'm not speaking purely for myself when a lot of times throughout my life on a day-to-day basis, I would think, what would Bond do in this situation? So I think it does go to those levels, absolutely. Yeah.
I definitely think about that. Yeah, that's a good point. And especially if you're in that mood as well, it just sets you up, doesn't it? You get ooh, level of excitement. I like it. Okay, so that's basically the Jesper Christian interview, which I thought was interesting. A few little tidbits in there. Now, there is one other little bit of news. It's not a major news, but it's kind of Bond lifestyle news. Now, this is a new addition to the 007 fragrance line, which has been launched, called 007 for Women.
Ooh.
Now, upon hearing this, our JBR listener Matthew Grice bought a bottle for his girlfriend, who apparently wasn't too fond of the smell. So subsequently, it has now been added to Matthew's Bond memorabilia collection. Although, I'd like to think that he sneaks down in the middle of the night and has a quick spray when no one's looking and then rushes back upstairs. I'm sure he does. Yeah. I'm sure he does. He'll be in his Moonraker outfit, or maybe he's got a Bond girl outfit, and then he sneaks down, has a quick spray, does a little dance, and then up he goes.
Absolutely, just a little bit of have a little private personal time with himself. Just sneak down there and I fancy a little whiff of Bond girl. There it is, and away he goes. Yeah, absolutely. Little midnight sessions.
People said you couldn't bottle that stuff, so there you go.
It's all
good.
Excellent stuff.
So that's all Bond speculation for this podcast.
There it is. So, beautiful stuff. So there's quite a lot of meat in that section this week, wasn't there? So
it was quite nice.
Yeah, plenty to think about. Where are we now? We're in early February. So we've got considering how fast January went for me, I think Spectre is going to be out before we even know it. It's going to creep up on us.
Yeah. Well, like we were saying in previous podcasts, we'll get the teaser trailer, obviously the poster. We'll hear about the band or the singer for it. We'll get the full trailer. It'll be all that build up and little bit more snippets coming out. So it's good times.
Absolutely, good stuff. Good. So moving on, it's time for the Bond trivia round.
Yeah, Bond trivia.
There it is. So,
what is the Bond trivia thing? Do we have a Bond trivia thing? I can't remember.
It's Bond trivia.
Okay.
That's as far as it goes.
I like it. That works for me.
There it is.
Okay.
So would you like to go first this week?
No, I think you should go first.
Okay. My question is, taking it right back.
Uh-oh.
My question of the day is, how many knocks did Bond and Tatiana Romanova use as their cue to open the door to their room on the train in From Russia with Love?
Ooh, that's a good question.
How many knocks?
Very good question. How many knocks? That's a good question.
Good stuff. Obviously, we'll reveal the answer to that towards the end of today's episode, so stay tuned.
Yep. So I'm going to mix things up a little here for my trivia.
Okay.
This is going to be called Bond Speed Trivia.
Oh,
now, the question I'm going to ask, you'll know the answer to. Okay. But it's about how quickly you can reel off the answer.
Oh man!
If I told you now, you'd have way too much time until the end. Okay. So I'm gonna reel it back, and I'm gonna hold off until we get to the Bond trivia round later on. I'm gonna say my trivia, and then I'm gonna see how you get on.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, cool. Okay. Sounds good.
So I'll leave you in suspense until then. How's that?
All right, okay. That sounds good. I'm intrigued. This is different.
Cool.
I'm excited.
It is.
Okay, so as we said before, this week is all about the listeners. So we've got 6 of our listeners who've kind of called in, and we've done a little short interview with each and every one of them. So our first one,
I just want to say, for anyone that watched the video of when I pulled the names out of the hat, Simon Woolley was one of the names to come out, Mr. Agent Golden Voice. Now, unfortunately, Aidan Golden Voice has had to go away on a secret mission. He's been on loads, actually. Every time he's on Facebook, he's like in one country or another. But he's on a mission, so unfortunately he had to postpone his interview. Now, we know we're going to do another Fancast podcast in the future. We're not sure when yet, but when we do, what we'll do is we'll put him as one of the automatic names because he was pulled out for this one. Yeah. So we'll use him in the next Fancast, and then we'll pull out another 5 names of people who are interested. But we have found a superb replacement. Now, I mentioned on the actual video when I did it that we didn't have a female sort of voice. So we've asked Antoinette Miceli to come in to be one of our Fancast interviews. So it's nice now. We've got sort of the female voice as well. So I think that's worked out for the best.
Absolutely. Sounds good. So, so our first interview is with Mr. Van Allen Plexico. So let's cut to Van's interview now.
This is our very first Fancast to celebrate our 1-year anniversary for James Bond Radio. Now, the person who's got the honour to do the very first Fancast is Mr. Van Allen Plexico. So it's a pleasure to meet you, Van.
Oh, it's a pleasure and an honor, gentlemen. I'm a huge fan of your show, and I really admire it, and I'm thrilled to be here.
I tell you what, man, the sound quality of your voice is second to none. You're putting us to shame already.
It's a good radio voice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I have my own. I have 2 podcasts, so I do this every week. So. On different shows. So.
Oh, very nice. Okay, well, share with the listeners what your podcasts are then.
Well, I have a sports show with a friend of mine about Auburn University American football called the AU Wishbone Show, and then I also do a show with a different guest every week called the White Rocket Podcast at www.whiterocketbooks.com, and I just have a different guest on every week to talk about everything from like Dune to James Bond to whatever pop culture thing is interesting that week. So.
Oh, very nice. That sounds really cool. We'll have to. You must have done some James Bond episodes on that one by now, surely.
We've got 2 that are already live. We've got a 3rd in the can. I've got to edit, and we've got 3 more coming up. We kind of broke it down into basically each actor, more or less. Though Connery obviously gets 2, and with Lazenby kind of tacked on at the end of that one. So.
Oh, very nice.
Okay,
cool.
Excellent. We'll have to definitely have a listen.
Yeah,
sure.
Definitely. So whereabouts are you from?
I'm originally from Alabama in the U.S., but I currently am a college professor in Illinois, so I live up near St. Louis.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. So we're going to kick things off with our 007 Quickfire Questions. So we thought we'd run those by you, and then we'll have more of a general chat about your Bond fandom after that. So
very good.
The very first question is, what is your favourite Bond film?
My sentimental favorite has always been You Only Live Twice. I mean, a volcano base, ninja commandos. What more could you ask for?
Very nice. I like that. Was that like maybe the first one you saw, or when did you come across You Only Live Twice?
It was one of the earlier ones I saw, but I think just everything that goes into that movie, when I was a kid, I was just, it boggled my mind. So it's always kind of been my favorite, even though, looking back now, I can see a lot of the flaws, obviously, but there's just so much good to love about it,
Absolutely.
It's a really entertaining one, You Only Live Twice, isn't it? And obviously, you mentioned the volcano base is amazing. I think actually that's the first listener that we've had that said You Only Live Twice is their favourite Bond film. So it's good. I want to get every single Bond film to have a number 1 fan out there somewhere. So we're doing well. It's good.
We're going to struggle with one of those films.
Yeah, I know which one that one.
We all know which one that is.
Okay, Van. So question number 2 is, what is your favourite James Bond novel?
Well, of the originals, I've really only read Casino Royale and From Russia with Love, which I know is not in the right order, but, that's just how it worked out. But I really think Casino Royale, hit me the hardest because the whole ending was so not like the Bond, in most of the movies that I was reading it just fascinated to see where Fleming was going with all that. I just couldn't imagine Bond spending, days and days kind of moping around after a woman and wondering, what's wrong, honey? That just doesn't seem Bond. So I was fascinated by that. I thought that was really impressive.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And then next up, your favorite Bond girl.
This is the easiest of all of them because I have a favorite Bond girl. You're
not allowed to say all of them.
No. I have a favorite Bond girl that's head and shoulders above all the others, and that's Wei Lin, because she's the only one that is a secret agent that kicks butt even as much or more than Bond does in his movie. I was desperately wanting On the People's Republic Secret Service movie to come out that had just her, kicking butt. So I really love Michelle Yeoh.
Man, I wasn't expecting that one. Do you know what? You've actually, because when we talked about that before, Chris, didn't we? We said Tracy was the best one because she could handle herself. She's the one that killed Gunther and all that kind of stuff. I completely forgot about Waylon. She is a proper butt kicker, isn't she?
Yes, she is. Absolutely.
Yeah, good answer though. And she looks pretty fine in the old leather catsuit when she's walking down the wall.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and she has a lair full of secret weapons. That's so awesome.
That's good answer. Which makes the next one quite interesting. Who is your favourite actor to have played James Bond?
Okay, I have a favorite, and then there's the best. There's no doubt that the best is Sean Connery. I have to admit that, even though he's not my favorite. But my favorite is Pierce Brosnan, because I was already a Remington Steele fan back in the 80s. I was very excited when he got the role. I was crushed when he lost it because of NBC and all. I was excited again in 95 when GoldenEye came out. I just feel like Brosnan kind of combines the most appealing features of several of the others. He's able to do a lot of things that the others were only maybe able to do one thing of, and so he's just always been my favorite, I think.
Do you know what? That's really put a smile on my face, man, because Pierce gets so much shit these days, and it's good to hear of a true appreciator. So go on, expand on that a little bit. What do you think? Like you say that he's capable of some things some of the other actors wouldn't have been able to pull off. Give me some examples of that, maybe.
Well, he can do the little wry, dry humor comments like a Roger Moore, but then he can be very serious and deadly, like Timothy Dalton or Sean Connery. He's as charismatic as a Sean Connery in a lot of ways, whereas Dalton really wasn't very charismatic, even though he had more of the acting chops, maybe. He's a good actor. He's charismatic. He's attractive. He just seems to me to have the full thing that others only have a few pieces of.
Damn right. Sounds good to
me. And do you have a favorite Brosnan film?
I think, GoldenEye is probably the best one, but Tomorrow Never Dies, because of Wei Lin and him teaming up and everything. The villain is stupid, but everything else about Tomorrow Never Dies is awesome.
Yeah, it's not a bad film, actually, though. Well, both of them are pretty decent. Excellent. Okay, Tom, you're next, aren't you?
What is your earliest memory of Bond?
Yeah, when I was a little kid back in the 70s, the ABC TV network here would show it came out it was almost like a joke that every Sunday night it would be some movie, but it would always be a Bond movie, and so because they knew how to get the ratings, they just show a James Bond movie. And so they would show a number of the 60s and early 70s ones, and I just remember Live and Let Die and Diamonds Are Forever like every other week on Sunday night, and Went and Kid scared me to death. Baron Samedi scared me to death. My first exposure to Bond was they were scary, but that was intriguing, to a little kid. You're like, oh, I'm scared. I want to know more, So, later on, the Roger Moore ones got sillier, but, my first experience of Bond was that these were deadly serious and scary movies. And I think that probably has as much as anything to do with me, becoming a big Bond fan the rest of my life.
It's funny you say about being scared. There was a period in my life when I refused to watch Spy Love Me or Moonraker because Jaws was in it, and I had this thing when I was a kid of anything with sharp teeth or teeth of any description would freak me out. And I didn't watch those movies for years. I was probably 17 or 18 by the time I finally watched them.
Tom, I have to be honest, Tom. There were years that I wouldn't watch those two movies either, but it wasn't because I was afraid of Jaws. It was because I was like, oh, Jaws again. Oh, God. But when you're little, exactly. Because Baron Samedi seems kind of like a cartoon character now, but when you're little, he's, and at the end when he's on the train, man, that freaked me out.
Yeah,
so.
it's pretty freaky stuff.
Yeah.
It's good though. I remember just Jaws, having nightmares about Jaws when I was really young. But the other thing that I was quite not frightened of, but when I was really, really young. Now this will be the opposite of Tom. I literally, on the kissing scenes, I would just be like, oh no, not the kissing scenes again. And I'd literally look away and then wait for the action scenes to roll up again. But I think you were the opposite, weren't you, Tom?
How different children we were, Chris.
Well, this is a good opportunity for mention. My 6-year-old daughter is a huge Bond fan. She's seen all the movies at least 2 or 3 times now. There's parts obviously that I have to fast forward through or whatever. But yeah, every time, when there's like violence and shootouts, as long as it's not too graphic, she gets into it. But whenever there's a kissing scene, she's like, oh, there goes James Bond kissing the girls again, and she climbs under the couch or covers her head up or something. So yeah,
you know what we should do, Chris? We should get some kid Bond fans on the show and interview them and see how they're feeling about Bond right at the beginning. That would be a good show.
Yeah,
I think.
Definitely. That sounds good. Okay, so on to question number 6. What is your favourite Bond location that you've yet to visit? Basically, what one would you like to visit more than any other?
Well, I'd like to visit Drax's space station, but they blew it up.
They did, yeah. There might be a bit of debris out there somewhere, but
yeah, exactly. But I guess probably just I don't have a very exciting answer for that. I guess Istanbul, because as a history professor, I talk a lot about the Byzantine and the Roman Empire and all, and Bond's been there at least two or three times at least. So I think Istanbul probably would be pretty cool.
Cool.
I was fortunate enough to go to Istanbul. I have a friend that lives out there, and I went there a couple of years ago. And I managed to get through so many locations from Russia with Love. And as soon as you see one, it G's you up. You just get so excited about it. And there's a couple from The World Is Not Enough, and then obviously Skyfall had the Bazaar as well, which was quite cool. But good answer.
Dude, that those photos of you going underneath, what is it called, with the water, where all the rats are when they're in the boat in the film?
Oh, it's like a reservoir. What's it called again? I can't remember, but I know what you mean. The one with the water and the when you saw that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I went crazy when I saw that. I think all those, I've always said, like, all the locations that still look exactly the same today as they were in the films back in those days are the best ones to visit. I think that's the definitely way to go.
That sounds
so this might be a difficult question for you, but what is your favourite scene in the whole series?
Yeah, I think that was probably the hardest question for me, because I there's something to love about all the movies, even that one, Tom. There's still things to love about all of them, And so, for some reason, I keep going back to Moonraker, because I know that Drax is sort of the Perry Como of Bond villains. And a friend of mine said he's in a coma, for most of the movie and kind of mumbles, but I just love when Bond kind of corners him in the airlock and uses his little wrist missile launcher thing to shoot him and then shoves him out the airlock. There's just something very memorable to me about that scene. But I also got to say that I mentioned earlier in Wei Lin's scene in her hideout, where like a whole army of ninja guys attack her and she just takes them all down by pushing buttons on her little work table and things pop out of the walls and all. I just love that too. So a couple of good ones there, I think.
Good stuff. I haven't seen Tomorrow Never Dies in a long time, but I remember, because I've said before, GoldenEye was the movie that really kicked things into overdrive for me, and I remember the build up to Tomorrow Never Dies so well. And I don't remember how many times I went to see that one, but it was probably up there with the amount of times I saw GoldenEye. And I think that was the peak of 1997. I think was probably the peak of Bond mania for me in my life. It was a good one.
Nice. Okay, so I guess the last one might be an interesting one as well. What is the most Bondian thing you've ever done?
Yeah, I haven't really done very much Bondian because I'm a kid from rural Alabama that never really got out much. But I did fly solo to Tokyo and then on to Singapore a few years ago, and I got to stroll around like a secret agent in the middle of Singapore and check everything out, and I guess probably play the Bond theme in my head while I'm walking around. So for me, that was about as exotic as it ever gets.
Yeah.
What is Bondian?
That's good. Do you know what? When I went to, I stopped over in Hong Kong in December when I was on my way to Thailand, and so I was obviously in big time Man with the Golden Gun mode. And I think one of the best things to do when you're traveling around like that is to have your iPod on with some Bond soundtracks on. Walking around the street, you instantly feel like the coolest person in the world. But in reality, it's probably one of the saddest things. But it made me feel good.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Hey, I've actually got a Bond film quote for you guys. If you want me to throw it out.
Oh yeah, go on then. Let's have it.
It's my chance to do this. I was very excited. I always enjoy hearing other people. So here you go.
Okay.
Use the bumper. That's what it's for.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one. Do you know who that is, Chris?
I think I've got a good idea who that is. Yeah.
I would say that is General Arumov in GoldenEye.
It is indeed. That was just for you, Tom.
Well
I thought
done.
you would appreciate that one.
Good man. Thank you.
All right, good.
So that winds up our quickfire questions. So did you have anything you wanted to talk about? Anything you wanted to ask us, or any areas of Bond you wanted to explore?
Well, I was doing some thinking about maybe the villains. I really, I always enjoy the different super villains, the big villains. I enjoyed hearing you guys talk about the henchmen. That was an excellent show. But the guys on top that make the decision, sort of the head coaches of the Bond evil world. And one of the things that I was thinking about was, how many times does Bond how many times does the villain make a critical mistake that gives himself away? And often it's because Bond is able to do something to provoke the villain into giving himself away. I mean, that to me, I think, is the most interesting thing about how the villains are treated in the movies, is that they're usually super rich. They have an army. They have a secret base. They have some super plan to conquer the world or get rich or both. But yet they always have a weakness. It's usually their vanity, right? And Bond always is able to immediately kind of poke at their weakness, at their vanity. He usually just goes right into them at a poker game or in a golf game, obviously, or somewhere like that, and he draws them out and he makes them behave irrationally. And that's usually their downfall. What do you guys think about that?
That sounds about right. There's something like you'll notice in, like, I think Thunderball is the first time we see it happen, where he goes to the card game at Largo and he says, "Oh, I saw a spectre at your shoulder," and all that kind of stuff. And he lays the hints. And I remember he does the same thing in Tomorrow Never Dies, doesn't he? When he goes to see Elliot and he says, "Oh, I'd be lost at sea," or something. And he's just he's laying those little hints in. And I suppose
there's a great one from A View to a Kill when he's talking to Max Zorin about fly fishing, fly casting.
Yep, that's right.
Referring to Mayday's
there's another one.
Poisonous butterfly. Yeah, it's a good one.
That's right. He always seems to figure out the thing to say that'll draw them out and make them start getting angry and lose their cool, because I guess he knows that they'll be more vulnerable if they're angry and really taking it personally. When they get personal with him, that's when he starts getting the upper hand on them.
I think Goldfinger's a really good example of that. Obviously when he plays on Goldfinger's greed, particularly in the golf game, and uses his cheating against Goldfinger, because Goldfinger tries to cheat Bond out of it, and obviously Bond turns the tables on him. So again, it's using his weakness against a villain and coming out on top. So that's quite a nice little example of that, I think.
Tell me, does toppling rockets from foreign powers compensate for having no hands, Dr. No? There's another one. That was a bad quote. I couldn't remember the exact one, but it's doing the same job.
Well, there's also times, when he does that like if they had just ignored him, they could get away with it. I always think about it. You only live twice. When Bond flies little Nellie over the volcano, all Blofeld has to do is ignore him, and Blofeld will win. But he sends up the helicopters to try to shoot him down, and that tips his hand.
Yeah,
that's where he is. Because Bond was about to turn around and fly away and say, "No, he's not here." So he gets him to tip his hand. I mean, there've been other examples of that too, but that one really comes to my mind.
And they also have a bad habit of just revealing the intimate details of their plans as well, don't they? To the very person they shouldn't mention it to,
rather than kill him.
Yeah.
I could kill you, but instead I'm going to tell you all of my secret plans, because I assume you'll be dead soon anyway. Well, they never are. He never is. He always gets away, and so I just think it's.
But a Bond film wouldn't be a Bond film without a bit of that, would it? Really, you've got to love. Some of the darker films, maybe they try and skip around that somehow, but that's what people have come to know and love.
It would fall a bit flat, wouldn't it, if they just shot him in the face and that was the end of the film? It wouldn't quite work out as well, would it?
I know.
Cool. No. So we're running out of time a little bit here, but we're going to ask one more question, which is our ultimate Bond film question. If you could choose any director, actor, storyline, whatever, to make your ultimate Bond film, what would you go with?
Man, yeah, I didn't think in advance about this one, so I forgot. Well, it's got to be Pierce Brosnan in his prime, like 95 or so, and maybe I'd even roll the clock back and have a 1993 film with Pierce Brosnan would kind of maybe like do a Casino Royale kind of soft reboot where we see where the new M comes in, and we have a younger Pierce Brosnan. And maybe even sneak like a Blofeld or a Blofeld disciple in just to kind of tie it all together.
Yeah.
That might be fun. So
that sounds good. I like the sound of that. Cool stuff.
It's off the top of my head under pressure.
Yeah, no, that's good. So just a quick question. Obviously, you mentioned about the villains. Do you have a personal favourite Bond villain in the series?
Oh, I love Blofeld. I got to say, I tried to explain the evil scheme of On Her Majesty's Secret Service to my wife, and I got past allergy clinic and heraldry, and then she was at sea. She was adrift, lost at sea. So that didn't work out. But I love Blofeld. I think I love the Charles Gray Blofeld the best because he just was so arrogant and snotty. I mean, he wasn't as creepy as the others. He was just a jerk, and I kind of enjoyed that.
Interesting. I think it's funny, isn't it, that the three actors, well, there'll be a fourth soon, I'm sure.
Right.
The three actors who did it, they all do it so differently, don't they? Like Donald Pleasance is the creepy, slimy one. Telly Savalas is obviously more of a physical threat, and then Charles Gray, like you say, is just a bit of a pompous dick, for want of a better word. Yeah.
But that's nice, and they all suit each film that they're in, don't they? So I think that works well, rather than having the same one. You couldn't see Donald Pleasance doing the whole skiing down the mountain and then smooching, trying to hit on Tracy.
No.
Cool. Well, that about wraps up the interview. Thanks for calling in, Van. It's been a pleasure to chat to you.
Absolutely. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I really appreciate you guys having me on today.
Cool. Just give your podcast a little shout out again so people know where to go.
Yeah, you can see all my stuff at www.plexico.net, and the podcast is at www.whiterocketbooks.com.
Beautiful. Thanks, Van, and we'll talk to you again soon, no doubt.
All right. Thanks a bunch.
Cool. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Van. It's been great. See ya.
Cheers.
Okay, it was good chatting to Van, wasn't it? It was good. I've seen his name cropping up in the comments section on the website a fair bit, and his speaking voice quality put us both to shame, didn't it?
It did. I mean, he's got great podcast voice. Obviously, he said he's done it before, but he's got some good equipment there. We'll have to find out what it is and ship some over to me.
Definitely.
But no, it's good. It's a good interview, that one. I enjoyed it.
So that's Van the Man in the bag. And next up from the UK, we have JBR listener James Dutton. So let's see what James has to say for himself. So special guest number 2 on today's episode is Mr. James Dutton. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you? You well?
Very well. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm fine, thanks. Yeah.
So
thanks for inviting me anyway. And
no worries.
That's all right.
No worries. You were
it's good to have you on board, James.
I just want to say before we start, I think your podcasts are really interesting and good, and the information you get from them is really, really good. So just want to say that before we start.
Cool, thanks, dude. So whereabouts are you from?
Cheers.
Well, I'm from England, North England, Lancashire. I'm in. I'm not too far from Liverpool, actually. I'm kind of at the end of Lancashire. A place that I'm near to that you may have heard, Ormskirk. I don't know, but no.
Liverpool will do.
I drove past.
I'm about 20 minutes from Liverpool, so that's probably the biggest city near. But then Manchester's probably another 30 minutes from here. I'm kind of stuck in the middle, if you like, from between the two.
Very nice. So, Chris, do you want to kick off the quickfire questions this time?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so our very first quickfire question is, James Dutton, what is your favourite James Bond film?
Right, well, for me, I think I never had one that's particularly at the top all the time. I think that's the great thing with the Bond films is the fact that you can sort of change them, it kind of moves up and down. There's certainly ones that are more at the top than the others, so I'd say ones like The Spy Who Loved Me, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Goldfinger, You Only Live Twice, Live and Let Die. They're the ones I really, really like. And I also, in a way, like Moonraker as well, because when I was a kid, I absolutely loved that film as a kid. I thought it was really, really kind of fantastical for being like a young kid. So any of them really. That keeps changing. I wouldn't say I have one particular one that I have at the top all the time. I mean, different moods, and that's the great thing with the films, I think, is just the fact that you can do that with them.
It's funny, I think Moonraker is having a little bit of a resurgence these days, because I remember Moonraker was always the butt of everybody's jokes and everyone used to take the piss out of it, but now there seems to be more of an appreciation for it. And I watched it with you, didn't I, Chris, for the first time in donkeys, and I remember always like being, I'm not going to watch Moonraker because it's the rubbish one. And then when I watched it again after years and years, it was like, actually, that's really solid. It just goes a bit too silly at the end. But up until that point, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the thing with the films is that you might get a really serious one, say License to Kill, which is quite serious and bloody, really, for the compared to the rest of them. But something like Moonraker when I was a kid, because I remember seeing it as a kid, I absolutely kind of loved it. And I think if a kid watches Moonraker as opposed to, say, well, License to Kill would be too old for them, you know, they're going to enjoy it. And I still enjoy it now. I mean, obviously, Roger Moore has his own take on Bond compared to, say, Connery, which is brilliant as well. But it's kind of the good thing with the films, really, is the fact that they are different. But in terms of spectacular, I'm not saying it's my best film, but I'm saying, you know, it's just giving you an example of different films in different moods and what have you.
So I think you probably gave us about 10 different answers to that question. So go on, if you had a gun to the head and you had to narrow it down to one, which would it be? I
said Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good one.
Yeah.
Very nice answer.
Because I just think it has everything.
Yeah. No, Spy Who Loved Me is great. It's right up there. And I think you made a really good point is, like, obviously people's opinions change from when they watch them when they're young to when they watch them as an adult. But no matter what you think of a film when you are an adult, if you've seen a Bond when you're young and you had an affection for it and you had like an affinity for that film, no matter how much your mood changes, you will always have a soft spot for that in your heart, sort of when you're an adult, aren't you?
I just want to say quick, because going on the films, I mean, I watched them on the telly, the Roger Moore ones, the Connery ones, and you know, Lazenby's on Your Majesty's Secret Service, and I loved them. And I always remember my cousin actually took me out, me and my sister on going to bowling and what have you when I was younger. And when we come home, we said we'll get a video out, and they got License to Kill out, and I'd never seen Dalton in the Living Daylights. I was too young, and obviously License to Kill was too old for me, really. But I watched it. And I enjoyed it to a certain extent, but it just didn't feel the same to what I've been used to, you know, with the Moore films and Connery films and that. I mean, I loved the tanker chase in it and that. I thought it was brilliant. But in terms of the film at the time, I just thought, wow, that was so different. And I thought, I can't take this guy. And then later on, I saw The Living Daylights as well because it was on telly, I think. And now I appreciate Dalton a lot more than what I did when I was younger, because for me at the time, he was too violent, too serious. But now I can appreciate that more with, you know, Daniel Craig's era, to how they've gone. So you kind of change as you go older as well, but you do still appreciate how they used to play them.
I think I think Timmy is himself having more respect these days, isn't he? Because I think his movies are sort of looked at as not a failure, but like the least popular ones of the series. Yeah. And like looking back now, everybody's thinking that he was ahead of his time because look at how successful Daniel is, and Timothy was kind of along those lines, you know, 20 odd years ago or whatever. So there you go, excellent stuff. Okay, next question is: what is your favourite Bond book?
Well, I mean, with the books, I have to confess I've not read them all, but years ago I remember seeing something in the paper. You know, the original straitjackets of how they used to be printed? Yeah. There was a thing where they reprinted them all, and I ordered them, and I think 2 came at a time over the course of so many months. And I've read some of them, and the one I have read, which I've got here, Thunderball, you can see it's the same jacket and everything. Yeah. Obviously, it's a reprint, it's not an original. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
And I quite enjoyed the Thunderball one, but I haven't read them all. So, I mean, it's something I need to try and do, really. But so I'm going to say Thunderball for the fact I have read that. I've read Casino Royale and I've read Dutton, and I think one of the others, but that one just stands out. But I'd like to read some of the others because I think, you know, I think On Her Majesty's Secret Service is one of your favourites, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good one.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, isn't it? You get like a certain breed of Bond fan who says you can't be a true fan unless you've read all the books and all that stuff. Yeah. But I can happily say that's bollocks. So good on you. And I envy you in a sense because you've got them all to kind of get through an experience for the first time. Yeah. So good on you, man.
I must say though, I don't think I could read all these continuation novels they've done. I just think it's sort of flogging a dead horse, if you know what I mean. I think they should have probably stopped with Fleming. The young Bond ones I don't mind as much because they're going back, so they can sort of like do things. But you know, I mean, you're obviously more into the books than I am, but that's my opinion. Is really that they should have been left with Fleming, but
I think there's good and bad ones with the continuation. There's a lot of them are definitely worth the read, but yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
So in the Bond series, then, James, who is your favourite James Bond girl?
Well, I mean, like you said, I think Tracy, Diana Rigg's character in Our Majesty's Secret Service, is just so strong, and you kind of do appreciate that. But I mean, again, when I was a kid, I always had a soft spot for the girl that was in For Your Eyes Only. I can't think of her name. You know, the one that teamed up with
Melina Heblock.
Was that her name? She got
Caroline Bouquet was her. Yeah, the actress.
I think that was her. Yeah. I had a bit of a crush on her, I think, when I was younger. And, you know, there's loads that stand out. I mean, Mary Goodnight in The Man with the Golden Gun, you know.
Tom's a fan of Mary Goodnight, aren't you, Tom?
Am I? Goodness me, yeah.
I mean, it's funny because when I was a kid, I thought it was really, you know, she was really beautiful and what have you. But when you see him, like, now, you can see how dotty she was, really. I suppose she was playing it like that as well. But I think they're the sort of characters that give them the kind of name they've got, the Bond girls, in the sense that, you know, because for me, there's been more strong Bond girls in the series than what, say, the press would try and make you believe and what have you. I mean, going back even to Connery's one, you know, I mean, the one from, you know, in Goldfinger.
Pussy Galore.
She was very... Sorry?
Pussy Galore?
Oh, Pussy Galore. Yeah, I mean, she was a really strong character, you know, and, you know, she was a bit of a match for Bond. Yes, she came to his affections in the end, but, you know, so when they sort of say every new film comes out, oh, we're going to have a strong Bond girl as equal, well, they've been doing that for years, in my opinion. It's just that not every film's had that, and the ones that seem to stick in the mind are the more the ones like you have Mary Goodnight, which, yeah, they were a bit silly in the sense that they were like, you know, like sort of would fall in his arms for anything sort of thing, but, you know.
I think there's been maybe 3 or 4 of those in the series, and literally that would be about it. But because they are the way that they were, that's why the sort of bad press got on the backs. But yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the majority are good, strong sort of characters, I think. Yeah,
there's a lot of strong women characters in the Bond films, I would say. You know, and obviously Diana Rigg's probably one of the strongest. You know, Vesper was brilliant, wasn't she? And that was all Fleming's writing, really. It wasn't so much the film, but that was Fleming's writing that brought those in. So,
yeah, right. Good stuff.
Yeah, but I'll say the one for Your Eyes Only, which I can't remember her name again, just from, you know, memories of childhood.
she carries a mean crossbow as well. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. She does.
So, next question? Who is your favourite James Bond actor?
Well, obviously, I want to say Roger Moore because he's the one that I can't remember which was the first Bond film I saw, but obviously it was on the telly, and certainly Roger Moore stuck in my mind more. I think Connery is more deadly. There's no doubt about that in his eyes and what have you. But I thought Moore's tongue-in-cheek just was really, really. He was clever with it. You know, it was a skill. I mean, you couldn't get Craig to do that because he just would look stupid. I mean, he tried to do it slightly, and he knows, but that's not his strength. Where Moore's strength was that. So, you know, yeah, I'd say Roger Moore, and I think his films were good as well. You know, action packed, and he just played the part well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually think that Roger does get a bit of flack. Like, I know he's done 7 and he's done a lot, and everyone's pro Connery, and nowadays pro Tim and pro Danny, and to some extent pro Pierce as well. And Roger's kind of gone down a sliding slope. But he offered so much with Bond, and like I've always got a soft spot for a bit of Rog. He's a good guy, is Rog.
Yeah,
you gotta love some Rog. Now it's funny, isn't it? I was saying the same thing about like in Skyfall. The one-liners they brought in for me with Daniel, they just fall a bit flat and they feel a bit forced in there because Daniel's not a funny dude, is he? Do you know what I mean?
No.
Whereas Roger is the jokester, and you know, it's the same with you know, Pierce can pull those lines off pretty well. Tim probably couldn't either. You know,
Timothy wasn't as good neither, was he? I mean, they tried to force him a bit, and they always said that The Living Daylights was written for Roger Moore, and Timothy Dutton had to try and play it. And you know, maybe it's slightly true. I don't know, but I mean, some actors can pull it off better than others, I suppose. But I mean, obviously, when the critics come into it again and say, well, Bond should be serious, and obviously the Fleming books were more serious and what have you, they look at Craig's performance as being better because of that aspect. But, you know, it's the strength of the actor, really, what they can do.
Yeah, no, definitely. So here's an interesting question for you, James. What is your earliest memory of James Bond?
Well, I mean, again, I couldn't probably tell you exactly what my earliest memory was, or the first memory, but certainly on the telly, just seeing the films would be how I'd start. What film it was I saw first, I don't know. Because I always like You Only Live Twice, you know, with the volcano. I thought, wow, that was brilliant. And then obviously same with the Moore ones where they had these big layers and whatever, and I thought that's how I got into it. So that they were my first sort of memories of it. And then you obviously did more research on them and stuff. I mean, the
Sunday afternoon Bond was like the intro to a lot of people, wasn't it? In the UK, I don't know about any elsewhere, but it was always like ITV on a Sunday. You get a Bond movie on, you know what I mean? It's all good.
I mean, ITV have had them on for years, and I've had one on today. I think they seem to repeat them a lot, so which is good for new fans and stuff. You know, they must have repeated them hundreds of times. I think. Yeah. You know,
I'd say I remember. I think was it Sky that had the 007 channel going for a while when Skyfall came out, or they just played them all back to back. I think that's a brilliant idea. They should bring that back.
It was brilliant, yeah. And they had the little titles as well at the beginning. I don't know, the little intro. You know, like the title card at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember it.
Oh, nice.
But it was good, yeah.
Cool. So if you could visit any Bond location of your choice, where would you go?
Well, that's a difficult question, I think. I mean, they always say, don't the Switzerland one always looks nice. I have to say, though, with the Switzerland one, I wouldn't so much want to go, what's it called, the thing on the top? Piz Gloria. Piz Gloria. Not so much that, but more the part down where all the
in the village and stuff.
The village, the car chase, and the ice skating part. That seemed more appealing to me than going up to the top. But or where you went, Tom, on the James Bond Island, I think that was
definitely really an experience. That was a good one.
Yeah, it does look a bit touristy, like. But
are you an ice skating aficionado? Is that why you wanted to go to the village?
No, I did a bit of ice skating when I was younger. But no, I won't be able to do it now. I don't think I'd probably break my ankle or something. But no, just more the fact it looked kind of nice, really. And I mean, obviously it must have changed now over the years. But I'd say somewhere like that, Switzerland or somewhere, you know.
And what would you say, this could be quite a difficult one, what would you say is your favourite scene in the whole series?
Oh, I mean, again, that's just like asking the favourite film. It's just, I couldn't narrow it down to one. I mean, obviously you've got your iconic scenes, which, with the laser beam and Goldfinger and, the bungee jumping GoldenEye and whatever. There's just so many. I mean, it's impossible to... So, I think that's one of the good things with the films, is that there is so many. There's not one that necessarily is the best. There's just so many good ones. I mean, I quite like the ones where they have quite long stunts, like at the beginning of Octopussy, where they have the plane thing, or a good sort of car chase or something like that. Quite longer action scenes that kind of go into the plot as well as and the story.
Bit like the start of Casino Royale with the parkour free running sequence.
Yeah, I mean that's good. Yeah, that is good. Yeah. I suppose if you want one that stands out, it's the gun barrel at the beginning of each film, because that's just or most of the films anyway, apart from the last two, which I'm not sure why they put to the end, but yeah. There's just so many, isn't there? I mean, it'd probably be wrong of me. I can't even think at the minute.
It is a very difficult question, that one. It is one that puts you on the spot, because there's so many that you have to cycle through. But yeah, some good choices there. And then,
I mean, probably the ski jumping, Spy Who Loved Me or something like that. I mean, again, it's just there's just so many. Yeah, so many.
So, what is the most Bondian thing you have ever done?
Well, that's a tough question as well. I mean, I suppose if I was going to say anything, I'd probably say I've drove an Aston Martin Vantage on one of those. I got a present where I got to go on a circuit with an instructor sort of thing and drive around quite fast in an Aston Martin.
Very nice. How was that?
It was good. I mean, it was only about 4 or 5 laps, so it soon finished, if you like. But it was good. I felt like James Bond.
Were you tempted to just turn the wheel and smash through a barrier and then drive it home?
I was more sort of petrified of trying to keep it on the track, to be honest with you, because there was actually a lady instructor next to me. She was telling me to put my foot down right as I'm coming up to these bends, and I thought, I've got to brake here, and she's making me go faster. So, but the more laps I did, the more I got into it. So it was just was just keeping it on the road really without crashing it, because otherwise I'd have to have paid quite a bit of money, I think, because I didn't pay the extra bit to cover the. You can pay an extra £20, and if something happens, then you don't pay the insurance. But if you do crash the car, you have to pay like £2,000, £3,000, whatever it was, towards it. So I wasn't looking to crash the car when I was doing it.
So being that it was a lady instructor, did you flip open the central compartment and there was a bottle of Bollinger in there and all that stuff?
Well. If only she was a little bit younger. She wouldn't say she was. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not being horrible or anything. But she wasn't the youngest of instructors, shall we say? She was more bunt rather than Honey Rider. Yeah. Well, I mean, she was nice, But if there was any champagne there, I don't think I would have been too fuzzy.
Good stuff. So that about wraps it up. That's our little 20-minute slot. So thank you for calling in and entering the little competition and all that kind of stuff. It was good to have a chat. Yeah, thanks for inviting us, and keep up the good work. Keep listening to the podcast. Well, thanks for listening. It's really good to hear. Cool. All right, James. Okay. Thanks very much. James. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye. James. Bye.
See you.
Okay, it was good to hear from James there. I must admit, I'm very jealous about his trip around the track in the Aston Martin, man. That's something I'd love to do. It's got to be done one day, but like you, I'd need the little bottle of champagne in between. I don't think they'd allow it. But no, absolutely. Drinking and driving doesn't usually go hand in hand, but in the world of Bond, I suppose anything's possible. So that's interview number 2 out of the way. Moving on, we've got from just down the road from me here in LA at this point, we've got JBR listener John Williams. Now this dude has got some amazing stories, so let's cut to him and see what he has to say. Okay, welcome to number 3 of our Fancast interviews for the 1-year anniversary. And today we are speaking to John Williams. Nice to meet you, John.
Nice to meet you guys as well. Thank you so much for having me. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here.
That's too kind. So whereabouts are you calling from, John?
I'm actually calling from Los Angeles, which I believe is not too far from where Tom is at the moment.
Just down the road, man.
That's it. Southern California.
Absolutely.
Sounds
you can
like
see,
the place to be.
If you're looking on YouTube, you can see the sun shining through my window, which
Love
is
it.
Lovely compared to...
It is beautiful today.
Yeah, compared to the snow back home, eh?
That's right.
Cool.
Excellent.
So we're going to kick things off with the first quickfire question, which is, what is your favorite Bond film?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, it always changes, but the one that I always come back to is From Russia with Love. I mean, I just feel like From Russia with Love is in the sweet spot between Dr. No and then what became the formula with Goldfinger. There's just something about that story. There's something about Connery. I mean, that shot of him in the mosque with the cat glasses, that is the coolest guy on planet Earth. I mean, you can't beat that. I also feel like with From Russia with Love too, as I always joke, it's the last of the real hair. It was still Connery's hair. So I don't know. From Russia with Love is the one I always come back to. I mean, I love Thunderball, obviously, but I mean, if I was on my deathbed and they said, John, you get one more Bond film, which strangely enough is something I think about often. The one I would say put on is From Russia with Love. I love the pacing of it. I love Robert Shaw. I mean, at the end of the day, the fight scene in the train is probably the best fight scene in the entire, Bond catalog. So unfortunately, it's nothing new, but I'm going to rock out From Russia with Love.
An excellent choice. I think it's a good one. The whole attaché case and stuff. You've got the gadgets in there. You've got a beautiful Bond girl. You've got Blofeld. All the classic things.
Yeah.
And it's Norman Wanstall said when we interviewed him, he was like, it's the one Bond film that doesn't stray too much into fantasy, and it's kind of like a real thriller that could have happened. So
Absolutely. I mean, if you were going to put one Bond film in the ground and it was opened up 100 years from now, that's the one I would that's the one I would go with.
That's a good question as well, isn't it? What if you were on your deathbed and you could watch one more Bond film? I don't know if I could choose. That's crazy.
Well, this is it. I was going to say, it's a bit different between if someone said to you, okay, there's one Bond film that you can watch over and over again for the rest of your life, or there's one Bond film that you can only see once before you die. And I think I might answer with different films for that. If it was one that I'd see over and over again, I think it would probably be Majesty's. But if it was one that I could only see once, it might actually be From Russia as well.
Yeah,
it would probably be From Russia or Thunderball for me, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a morbid question, and I hate to go there, but you know what, gentlemen, I hate to admit it, we're all going to be there one day, and that's why when they take that extra year for the next Bond film, in the back of my mind, I'm always going, no, because that means that's one less Bond film that I'm robbed in my lifetime. Anyway, yeah, so last one before you go to the big Bond in the sky, it's got to be From Russia,
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, excellent. Good question. So on to number 2. What is your favorite James Bond book?
Ooh, I'm going to go with Moonraker. I think Moonraker's that was the one when I was reading the novels that like really it dug in. I just was like, okay, these are great. I think I tried reading them once before and couldn't get into them. And about 5 years ago, I bought this little condo on the beach in Mexico, and I went down there for a month, and I took all the Ian Fleming books, and I just sat, by the pool under a palapa on the beach, mixing cocktails during the day as you do when you're on holiday. And by the time I got to the third book, I just thought the Moonraker story was so good, and it was so different, obviously, than the movie. But that was the one that got me the most, especially the ending when he meets the girl and she basically tells him goodbye, and he's sitting on the bench by himself. I mean, that was powerful to me. What do you mean Bond doesn't get the girl? So I just thought that would be a great, I don't know. I still think they should make that into a movie. I think there's something, to that book. There's a lot of material, and especially, I think also I liked it a lot because, Live and Let Die is kind of it was a tough read for me, it's pretty racy to put it mildly. Some of the language that he was using, especially as a Southern man, I was going, ooh, I don't know how I feel about this. So once I got to Moonraker, I was in and then just plowed through the rest of the Fleming catalog, which was it was a lovely way to read them, by the beach, having my own sort of GoldenEye moment,
Sounds like hard work.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's funny with Moonraker, isn't it? Because it's like you've got the film, and then I remember reading the book and not liking it when I was a kid, and I reread it myself maybe 2-3 years back, and sort of discovered it with fresh eyes. And it's a great book. I really like it. And the thing is, as everyone says, how there's no Fleming material left. There's like that entire book is basically ripe for the pillage.
So much material left, and and I think with Casino, that when one of the reasons why everyone loves it, it's because Ian Fleming is in the room. You can't help but to feel him, and it's there. And I have a tendency to sort of prefer the movies that lean a little bit more on Fleming than others. I'm a huge push comes to shove. If you say what's your favorite director, I mean I'll take Terrence Young any day of the week, and I feel like it's because there's so much of Fleming in his movies. And Tom, I hope I got that right. That is the ending of Moonraker, right? Where he's sitting on the park bench with the girl.
Yeah.
Just sitting there going, oh boy, did I just go on that tangent? And it's another book. Okay, good. I'm feeling good now.
Yeah, it's all good. Apparently, Purvis and Wade have been trying to get Gala Brand into a script for years, and she's always been written out for whatever reason or name changed and stuff, which is...
I think she'll definitely have to be used at some point, though. I do like the idea of having this Bond girl that Bond doesn't actually get. And I know we had Camille in Quantum, and they were almost pally rather than anything more. But I still think there should be a woman that Bond lusts for so much, and you think, oh yeah, he's just going to win her over, but he doesn't. A bit like Pussy Galore, but without the turning point,
Yeah.
I think
exactly. Yeah, that one really should have gone the other way, but so be it. And but I love that. I love, in the books, the sort of vulnerability and the human quality of Bond, that it's not always so slick. It always doesn't work out for him. I don't know, that really registers when you read the books after seeing the movies your whole life. Moonraker is the answer.
Good choice. So I've got a feeling this next question might go on for a little bit longer than the others. John Williams, what is your favorite Bond girl?
Okay, well, we've had this discussion privately. So, the other day I was thinking about Bond girls, and I was thinking about, because I guess I'm at that point in life where I'm thinking about marriage, and I was thinking, okay, well, what Bond girl would you marry? Yes, Ursula's unbelievable, the bikini. It's the obvious answer. But for me, I have to go, hands down, the Bond girl that I'm going to marry is Aki. I think she's unbelievable. She saves his ass, twice in the car. I love the way she dresses. She's standing beside him. She's just, to me, like every time I watch, You Only Live Twice, I'm always just short of breath. So I just think Aki is just the most amazing woman of all time. Stunning. And I know this is going to sound weird, and I can't believe that I'm actually airing this publicly. But that scene in the Kobe docks when she's just wearing jeans and a ill-fitted brown sweatshirt. I don't know, guys, but it really does it for me. There's just something about her, kicking ass. She's got the cute bangs. I don't know, man. I am super fan, Aki #1. And when she dies, it just kills me. I got my own thing going on. You know what I mean? I just think she's the ultimate Bond girl, the proper bath, the massage, saving his ass. She just looks beautiful. I love the way she dresses. It's funny because we always talk about You Only Live Twice and about how Connery's sort of phoning it in, but that death scene is, I think, beautifully done. And if you really watch that scene, Connery shows up for that. The music cue, her death, the way he responds to it, I think it's actually probably the most powerful moment in that film. Now that might just be me because, the death of Aki is just unbelievable. And then Kissy, come on, what is that? What does she show up for? They should have never done that. She should have never been in the movie, in my opinion.
She has a face like a pig.
Exactly. I love that scene when little Nellie shows up and, she says something along the lines, "Oh, he would never look at that girl." And he goes, "Oh, heavens, no."
Yeah. Heaven forbid. Yeah.
Right then and there, I know this woman is standing by her man. And I think, that's what I dig. Anyway.
So would you enjoy very much if she was serving under you?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I'm okay with that. I'm ready to sign the line which is dotted. We don't need a prenup. I'm in. You know what I mean?
That's good.
And in California, that's saying something.
That's good.
Very nice. And an excellent choice. I think it's funny, isn't it, the whole Kissy thing. It's kind of like she's almost there just for the sake of it. But that death scene of Aki is such a good one. Yeah. It would be a shame to lose that.
That is the flip side, isn't it? The whole poison and the ninja, I think it's class. Beautifully shot, that scene, definitely.
Yeah. It's over the hype.
So on to question number 4. Who is your favourite James Bond actor?
Well, you gotta love Sean. Sean's the guy. And, whenever I hear this conversation on the podcast or talk to Bond friends, we can, I don't know, you just, as soon as you, again, come back to the cat glasses and the suit, you just go, that's the coolest guy on planet Earth. I love them all. I really do. There's not one that I don't love. And when you guys were ranking them, it was just I just had this pit in my stomach that I actually would have to pick a number, at the bottom of the list. But, Sean is amazing. I love George. I'm definitely with you guys. I'm a huge Majesty's fan. One of the great things about living in LA is that we have revival screenings all the time. And, I've had the pleasure of hearing him speak 3 times. I've actually got a great photo of him signing my Making Majesty's book that I'll have to post someday. So had a little moment with him, which was really cool. When you're in the mood for Roger, there's nothing better, I'm a huge Dalton fan. We actually share the same mailbox house, and I've got to meet him. And, we had a little conversation with the owner about the price of shipping, which was very interesting. Run into him at my grocery store actually once. He was behind me in line, and of course, I was the one time I was hoping they didn't add another cashier because I wanted the line to last as long as I could. So, Daniel's the man, no doubt about it. I've learned to like Pierce a lot more through the years, especially after The November Man. I saw that movie and it made me long for what Pierce did as Bond. Anyway, sorry, that's a long-winded answer. I'm going to go with Sean Connery.
An excellent choice. Do you know, it's funny.
Sorry about that, guys. It's going to happen today. What can I say?
Two things, really. Number one is choosing your favorite Bond is like bad-mouthing any of them is a horrible experience. And I feel like I'm being nasty to a family member or something. So it is difficult, but Sean's up there for everybody, I think. And secondly, I don't really get starstruck at all, but when it's Bond people, then I just clam up and I can't even get a single word out. It's just like a weird psychological tick I've got. Yeah, no, I hear you. It's strange. A couple months ago was in Trader Joe's, our little local grocery store here in California, and I heard this guy's voice, and I was like, God, that voice looks familiar, or sounds familiar. And I look over at him, I'm looking at him, and he's walking around, and he's asking, about some cereal, and I'm looking at him, and I'm going, oh, it's David Hedison. And I just took a step back, and I just watched David Hedison, pick out cereal, and I'm going, well, this is, you know what I mean? Here I am staring at this older guy, in West Hollywood, no doubt. Yeah. And it was just this like really cool moment where I watched, Felix Leiter ×2 picking out cereal, which was surreal. What can I say? That is funny. I love it.
No doubt about it.
Did you make a mental note of what cereal it was and then go straight ahead and purchase it at the same time?
I didn't. I did not actually. But he had his list, and I was just going, wow, Felix Leiter's got his grocery list. You know what I mean? It was crazy. And real quick, I have to tell this story. Speaking of Los Angeles and encounters and Bond people, I dabbled in acting probably 14 years ago when I was in a cold reading class. And I got paired off to do on camera scene, just me and this woman, and she was stunning. And the camera rolls, we start to do the scene, and I realize it's Christina Wayburn. And I went, you've got to be kidding me. I wish I had this tape of me because I'm sure halfway through you can see me pretty much shit myself. I am acting across from Magda. We actually became kind of friends for a while. We lost touch, but anyway, that was a surreal Bond encounter moment. Just halfway through a scene with this beautiful actress, and I realized I'm sharing a moment with a woman who shared a moment with Roger Moore.
You've got like about 20 answers to our quickfire number 8 question.
I don't even know what the question is anymore at this point, guys. I'm sorry.
007 slow fire questions.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of which, like obviously you've had a fair bit of contact with Bond actors and stuff over the years. Tell your story about a certain acting class you took with somebody else a few years back.
Yes. Now this was on purpose. I just moved to Los Angeles. It would have been about 2000, and I've done some acting prior to moving here, and so was looking for an acting class, and I saw an ad for Bruce Glover, and so I actually trained with him for a short period of time, and it was great because he at the time was teaching acting in his house. So I would go over to his house, and I think there was one afternoon where no one else showed up, and it was just him and I, and it was just me acting with, Bruce Glover, which was pretty killer.
Did you ever run a scene of you being Mr. Kidd?
No, I did not.
Oh, man. Missed opportunity.
I, of course, brought it up. He told me a story about how he pretended to be gay. And then I guess at the rap party, he introduced to Connery, and Connery just called him a little shit or something to that effect. So I did get a little one-on-one time where I got a private story, diamond story with Bruce Glover about Sean Connery, and that's always a fun afternoon. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Yeah.
So next question: what is your earliest memory of Bond?
Well, my first Bond movie was For Your Eyes Only. And, I'm originally from North Carolina, and my grandfather said, do you want to go? And I was 10 years old. I said, absolutely, I want to go. Well, we go to the theater, and he buys one ticket and takes me in and leaves me. And I remember just going, wait a minute, what's going on here? So it's my first experience in a movie theater seeing a Bond film, and I'm by myself. And Fear Eyes Only just blew my mind. I mean, 10-year-old boy. I mean, the locations, that storyline. Oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? Who's the actress that played the Greek?
Melina Havelock, you mean?
Is it Carol Bouquet?
Yeah.
It's Carol Bouquet. I mean, that really awakens the senses of a young boy. And I just was like blown away. So I walk out of the theater, and my grandfather pulls up, bombs around the corner in this huge white Cadillac. And he looks at me and he goes, "Did you enjoy it?" I said, "Oh my God, it was incredible, Granddad." He goes, "Do you want to see it again?" I said, "What?" He buys me another ticket, takes me back in, leaves me there. So now I've just seen it. Now I'm able to see it again, and I'm like, yeah, I just saw this, acting like I'm cool. You know what I mean? It was like this sort of rite of passage as a young boy, and I got to see it again. And it just blew my mind. Now, when my grandfather then picked me up, I realized that his business partner was around the corner. And to the dismay of my grandmother, there was perhaps a little vodka on his breath. So he had basically dropped me off to see Fear Eyes Only twice while he was over at his business partner's, drinking vodka. But, that was the first Bond movie that I ever saw on the big screen. And, what an introduction. And, I'm just a huge fan of that movie and just to see Roger sort of play it serious.
Little did Grandpa know what he had begun by doing that.
Here I am, all these years later, talking to you guys about Bond it's incredible. I mean, and ultimately that probably is the foundation of what, that story, as I tell it, is probably what it is that I love about Bond, or, what Bond sort of where it takes me and why I'm attached to it and why I have posters and soundtracks and, have made friends and go to screenings and buy clothes that Daniel Craig wears. All those things lead back probably to that moment, So yeah, from Russia with Love. Yeah.
So obviously living in LA, you've got a lot of Bond locations sort of close by, and I remember you sort of mentioning that you've been to one or two. But out of all the Bond locations that you haven't visited, if there is one that you could go and see, what would it be?
My dream is to get inside the Elrod house. And every time I go to Palm Springs, I look up the hill and I see the Elrod house and I go, man, I'm dying to get in there. I don't know. I have this dream that we as Bond fans can come together and can rent it and do a screening. Because as I've been told by people who are sort of in the business in Palm Springs, as far as like homes and architecture and all that it hasn't changed at all. And I just think it would be amazing if we could all collectively get together, rent the place, put up a big projection, and have a screening of Diamonds Are Forever in the Elrod house. I'm just trying to switch the answer up from Peace Gloria. You know what I mean? But I just think that house, every time I see it, Tom and I got a chance to meet up the other night and went to a screening of Diamonds Are Forever, Man with the Golden Gun at the Egyptian here in LA. And when I saw that, that footage of Bambi and Thumper in the house and the view of Palm Springs down the hill. And I don't know, I'm dying to get in there. Like
Is it heavily guarded?
You know what? I've tried to go up the hill and you can't get anywhere near it. I mean, they've got security. Like the houses that are up there are, for the people who don't have to ask how much. You know what I mean? But they open it occasionally for Modernism Week and things like that. And I do believe you can rent it, but it makes GoldenEye look like, a Best Western.
Jeez.
So, the Elrod house, dying to get in there for sure.
That's a good one. I think we'd all have to wear pink ties and jump in that little swimming pool with all our clothes on.
and there's got to be plenty of Bambi and Thumper to go around.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So next question, and this is a very difficult one to kind of nail down. But what is your favorite scene out of the entire series?
Ooh, favorite scene out of the entire series. Okay, I got to be honest with you. And when you see it on the big screen, the subtlety of Connery's acting and what he does, I laugh so hard. It is brilliant. In Thunderball, when he walks into Fiona taking a bath and she asks to wear, for him to hand her something to wear, and he ever so slightly picks up shoes and sits down and gets this big grin on his face. I think that moment absolutely, utterly defines James Bond. And now it's my turn to apologize to the female listeners. But I just think that scene when he just hands her shoes, is just like, it just makes, I don't know. I burst out in laughter. I think it's so cool, and it defines, the cinematic James Bond. So yeah.
That is a great one. I love that scene. That is one of my favorites too.
Shoes and sits down while she's in the bath. That's the coolest thing ever, right?
I think if I could replicate any scene from the Bond films, I think that would probably be it.
Absolutely.
I'd be Connery stand-in for that scene any day, I think.
Especially because it's Fiona as well, Chris. We know you love a bit of Fiona.
I've got a soft spot for Fiona, definitely.
Yeah, I think if, you're a Bond fan, you should have a soft spot for Fiona. But hang on, now that I've said that, I've got to back up a little bit. I would be at the Kobe docks. How's that?
just stalking her like you did with Felix Leiter.
Let's get back to that. But yeah, that's my favorite scene.
Okay, so now this question is probably going to be the hardest of the lot, mainly because unlike a lot of people, you could answer this with several million answers. But this question is, what is the most Bondian thing you've ever done?
Well... Oh, that's a good one. I could sort of reference things, getting fitted for clothing at Anthony Sinclair last October for my birthday or something like that is probably the obvious answer. But I've truthfully, and this is where I get into my Bond headspace, I guess, I've done a lot of traveling by myself. And I always like to, for my birthday, I went to Buenos Aires by myself, and I always make sure to take the right clothes, to go out to a really nice hotel bar, to get suited up, and find a little this and that, see what's going on in the city, see, the element of chance is alive and well, and just sort of to get decked up and to head out into a foreign city, generally where you're the minority, perhaps, have a few good cocktails and, meet whoever it is you can meet is probably in my head where I'm being Bond.
There is something magical about that, isn't there? Especially if you've got the old Bond soundtrack going on in your headphones.
A little iPod shuffle tucked away, just looking around. Yeah. But no, I've done a lot of, been to Turks and Caicos before it became popular. And just a lot of travel in South America, Central America. I lived in London for a while, and so was able to travel throughout Europe. And I always just sort of in my head get into some sort of Bondian mood. Had a couple of great trips to Miami,
nice.
And stayed at the appropriate hotels, and so just sort of get into the spirit of Bond when I'm traveling is probably the answer.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
It makes me want to go off now.
Yeah.
So one final question. If you could make your ultimate Bond film starring any actor as Bond with any director doing any storyline of your choosing, what would you have?
I would go with Diamonds Are Forever, starring Lazenby, directed by Soderbergh. And yeah, I think Steven Soderbergh would do an excellent job. And when I look at like the Ocean's films and the fashion and David Holmes soundtrack, I could just see where he could do something with that particular, place and time, 1971. I would have loved to have seen, I love Diamonds. I'm a huge Diamonds fan, but I would have loved to seen a more serious storyline. But I would have loved to have George continue and have a director who wasn't just constantly trying to reinvent Goldfinger. You know what I mean?
Totally. Do you know what? It's funny. A lot of people say they would love to see Majesties starring Connery, whereas my first choice, without a doubt, would be Diamond starring George. Like I would love to get my hands on those scripts and see what that would have would have had those early ones.
Yeah, we got to find those scripts. Yeah. They're out there.
They're out there. Charles Helvenstein said that he'd held them and read through all the different iterations of it before.
We need to get into his house.
Yeah.
Let's get into his place and take a look around.
Yeah. Cool. Well, John, thank you so much for getting involved and coming on the show. It was an illuminating interview.
Excellent. Thank you for having me, guys. And again, thanks. I know I speak for all of the listeners when I say thank you for keeping us company going to and from work. You guys are doing great work, and keep it up. And look forward to meeting you guys soon. Looking forward to London for the premiere, and we got to all get together, have a party, go see the film together.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good.
I'm in.
That's got to be done, without a doubt. Well, it's great for all your stories today, John. Very entertaining stuff there. It's good to listen to.
Thank you.
All right, man. We'll see you soon.
All right. Ciao.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, some great stories from John there. I love the whole Bruce Glover thing, having lessons in his house. I mean, I feel like I've got to look the dude up and see if I can get some acting lessons from him.
You got to. If he's just down the road, you have to, man. And there's no way that you couldn't meet him and not throw off a Winton Kid line. You'd have to.
You would have to.
Have to.
Do you know what would be the dream is to go in there with the dummies up for a script and be like, look, can we just work on this scene here? Like you just be Mr. Winton, I'll be Mr. Kid, and then we'll do that thing.
That'd be awesome.
And just imagine that bit when your line would be, if God had been man to fly, and then hearing him say that line would just blow my mind. In fact, I might do it. I'm going
go on, you do it. Go on.
Good stuff. So next up, we have JBR listener Josh Trett, who called in for a little chat. So let's see what he had to say. Okay, so interview number 4 on the 1 year James Bond Radio birthday spectacular is JBR listener Josh Trett. Welcome to the show, Josh.
I have found me honour. Good to be on the show.
It's good to have you on board, Josh.
So we're going to kick things off with the first quickfire question, which is, what is your favourite Bond film?
I'm going to say, because the thing is, I'm not sure if you have the same, as I kind of keep watching them and keep sort of getting older, they change. I think at the moment it's Casino Royale.
Very good choice.
That is a good one.
Based on your guys' podcasts, I rewatched On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and that's coming up at close second now. I think.
Where was it before the podcast?
It was pretty low, to be honest. And because I don't know, and then I just sort of looked at it with sort of fresh eyes and thought, this is solid. This is what Bond should be, really.
Excellent. Now that puts a smile on my face, Chris. I feel like we've spreaded our message and it's getting out there. It's good.
Spread the love. It is funny though, isn't it? How sometimes you'll watch a film, and if you've got an opinion of that film in your mind, it kind of stays that way, and you'll either avoid it or you'll watch it in that same mindset until you suddenly think, "Oh, hang on a minute, that's kind of watch it like you said with fresh eyes," and then suddenly you can sort of see a different angle on it. And you're also definitely right. When you watch Bond when you're younger compared to when you're an adult, obviously it changes as well. What was your favourite Bond film when you were a youngster then?
I thought that changed all the time as well. I mean, it was probably ever one I'd seen last was at that time. So believe it or not, at one point it was probably Die Another Day because I just
Jesus Christ.
That must have been a bad day.
The next week I could watch Russia with Love, and that would be my favourite one. So I think I didn't really have a favourite. I guess whatever I watched that week probably.
Interesting.
Wow.
I think you're the only person we've ever met who at one time their favourite Bond movie was Die Another Day.
I was about 11 or 12 or however old.
Oh, well, there you go then. That explains it.
No, but that's okay because we wanted to find someone for each and every film. And so if Josh is the only one that's ever had Die Another Day as a favourite Bond film, I'm afraid that's how he's going to be labelled for the rest of his life. I hope that's okay with you, Josh. Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead. All right.
Casino and Majesty's a good one, though, so that's good.
Yes.
So, question 2, what is your favourite James Bond book?
Again, that is Casino Royale. I think it's because of the first one I read, and for a while I didn't read the books. I only started reading them a few years back, and Casino Royale just really caught me, and I was like, and that's kind of what made me appreciate the films in a different way, is reading the books and seeing where they came from.
That is a good one. That's always the one I tend to pick up is Casino Royale. I don't know. It's funny because it's like when you think about it, and they always said this, didn't they? That like Casino Royale was unfilmable because all it is him going to the casino, playing the game, and then there's the little bit of action at the end. But reading that book, there's something about it being a bit shorter than your average novel. Kind of just really works for me. It's like you don't need that big, huge plot with massive explosions and terrorists taking over the world. I love how it's like on a local level. It's all about the card game with a bit of action at the end. I think that's great.
Yeah, I like that too. But I do have my second closest favorite, like coming up close to the rail, is Moonraker, mainly because I think it needs to be done justice film-wise. So
definitely.
That's funny enough. Yeah, we literally just discussed that on our previous interview. Yeah, I mean, Moonraker, there's so much in there that has to be mined at some point. It's got to be done, basically. And the good thing is that, there is still information and material that can be used. So we'll wait for the day when it is.
Yeah, I remember reading it. I'm like, why has this not been put into a film yet? This is like some of the best stuff, though.
I feel like if you took away the fact that it's Hugo Drax, because obviously he's already been used, and the name of the rocket, then it is a fresh movie ready to go. And like, there's that whole scene when they're playing bridge at Blades and stuff, which is amazing, where he's got the cigarette lighter that's polished, so he can so it's a mirror, so he can use it. All that kind of stuff, man. It's just such a shame that hasn't been done. But maybe that'll be one of the upcoming movies. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, like we did with License to Kill, they took elements from like that dive book and put that in the film. So they could do the same with a future Bond, is take stuff from Moonraker that hasn't been filmed and put it.
Definitely.
So Eon, if you're listening, that's what we're after.
Cool. So next question: who is your favourite Bond girl?
It could just be one.
When I answered these questions on the blog, I couldn't possibly choose one, so I gave about 10 as my answer. So you can answer however you choose.
Okay. Well, if I'm being sort of shallow and basing it on the looks, I'm going to say Jane Seymour as Solitaire.
Oh, goodness gracious me! Yeah,
very nice, very nice.
Especially on Blu-ray in HD.
Good sacrifice scene.
Yeah, and then in terms of characters, and I just think obviously Mrs. Bond, Tracy is good, and Vesper, I think are both really well written characters and really well played as well.
That's what I had to do in the end was, and I think you did it as well, didn't you, Chris?
Yeah, I did.
You had to choose one purely for carnal, primal desires, and then the other one for one you could have a decent conversation with, and it comes out pretty similar. So, like, based on that, like, who would you say is like the worst Bond girl then for you?
Well, the thing is, I think I don't know. Let's give a second. I think what's her name? Rosie Carter isn't great.
Yeah, Rosie Carter from Live and Let Die.
It annoys me a bit, and I didn't really see the point of her really.
That's it. That's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. She's definitely down there. I would say, Chris, you would probably say Stacey Sutton.
Oh my God, yeah, definitely.
Of course.
Yeah, she's the screaming queen. That's awful, but there we go. Question 4 is: who is your favourite James Bond actor?
So I think I grew up with Pierce Brosnan. So for a while he was, but I was at I think when did Casino Royale came out? It came out just as I was sort of in my early teens. So Casino Royale came out at the right time for me to want a darker Bond. So it was Brosnan, and now it's Craig, I think, as much as I admire all the other ones. I kind of really admire what Craig did with it.
So Daniel came along at just the right time. What were you, like 13 when that came out or something?
I think must have been at that age, yeah.
Yeah, that was the same for me with GoldenEye, man. And I think that if you can get them at 13, then you've got them for life, I think. I think any younger than that, you might be a bit too young, but 13 is the time, I reckon.
Well, I was a bit unfortunate in that case because I was exactly bang in the middle between License to Kill and GoldenEye. So I didn't get my 13-year-old cinema experience, but there we go. I'll just weep in the corner for a little bit.
There it is. I think that is the perfect time when, as a man, your loins are beginning to awaken, and you can you've stepped over from being a kid on your way to being a man, and then James Bond is like the perfect role model to model yourself on, somewhat like I did with Brosnan.
That's that awkward period where Casino Royale wasn't out, and it was just we had Die Another Day as the last one.
Yeah.
Mm.
So there we go. So, what would you say is your earliest memory of Bond?
This is how I discovered Bond as well. Is I was at a friend's house. I can't remember how old I was. I was quite young, and we also used to just pretend to be Batman and Robin.
Which one were you?
I was on Batman, obviously.
Oh, no. Always be Batman.
Yeah.
But he was like, "Let's play James Bond." And I'm like, "What's James Bond? Why do you keep talking about James Bond? We want to play Batman." He's like, "No, James Bond." And then he made me borrow GoldenEye, the videotape. And I was like, I won't watch it. And obviously I watched it and fell in love with Bond. I was like, this is really good. And then I remember my dad said, "Oh, I recorded Man with the Golden Gun for you off TV." And I was like, "What's Man with the Golden Gun?" And he's like, "The James Bond film." It's like, "No, I've seen the James Bond film. I've seen GoldenEye." He's like, "No, there's more than one." I was like, "What? There's more than one James Bond film?" And then obviously I discovered the other, however many there were at the time.
That is amazing.
That is brilliant.
That is incredible. Like, I can't wait to have a son one day where I can just mold him. Do you know what I mean? And just see him see those things for the first time. That's incredible. I love that stuff.
Oh, that's a great story. It's almost like seeing them afresh. I want to do that again. I wish I had the chance. So, out of all the Bond locations in the series, Josh, if you could visit any one of them in the whole world, which one would it be?
I'm going to say, I think it's the same as you guys as well, which is Piscloria.
It's generally one of the top choices, I think, for people.
Yeah, and the One and Only Club, is that the name of the club?
Yeah, in Bahamas, yeah.
Bahamas, yeah, it looks great.
I've actually set foot in that place, and it blew my mind. Basically, there's like a little windy road that goes from the main road sort of through trees and stuff that goes all the way up to the resort. And as you pull out of the trees, the roundabout where he does that thing with Solange, where he's like, "Welcome to my home," that is the entrance to the whole resort. And then as soon as I saw that roundabout, I just absolutely lost it. It was like, ah! I'll have to post some of the photos on Facebook. And then I went into the foyer area where he asked the receptionist about the Aston Martin parked outside and all that kind of stuff. It's amazing. I love that place. And then I went and jumped in the sea as well and recreated that. But sadly, my physique was not anywhere near as good as Daniel, obviously.
Oh, okay, that's cool though. I think you probably find the same when you go to any Bond locations, that sort of geek out moment. Because I was in Vienna a few months ago and saw some places from Living Daylights, like the Prater Park and the Big Wheel and everything. And a few other palaces and good spots. I was like, I know the exact shot.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the thing, isn't it? You got to go there and try and recreate the actual camera angle that they use, so you can get the actual proper view. That's the way to do it.
Is that the favourite Bond location that you visited so far, Josh? Vienna.
Vienna.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah. We'll have to make a trip there one day, I think. You know, in Living Daylights, they had the Prater Cafe, where he's speaking to Saunders, and then Saunders gets killed by the door. Was there an actual Prater Cafe there as well?
I couldn't see it. I think there was. I don't think it's near kind of where I imagined it would be from watching a film. Because I thought it was right near the wheel, but I don't think it is. So I didn't see it. And obviously it looks quite a bit different. The wheel itself is exactly the same, but everything else, from what I remember from the film, and it's in The Third Man as well, looks quite different.
Did you actually go on the wheel?
No, I wanted to, but like I was with there with friends, and that they didn't want me turning it into me dragging them to Bond locations every day. So I kind of.
Your friends sound rubbish.
Yeah. Did you see anyone holding a balloon and get really scared?
Yeah, I was jumping around with the PPK over fences and stuff, and I was scared.
Nice, like it.
Very nice. Okay, so next question, and this is a pretty difficult one, if you could narrow it all down to one, is what is your favourite scene in the entire series?
Okay, let me think of one. Well, I think when Bond movies seem to do scenes with trains always quite successfully, and the one with Bond and Vesper in Casino Royale, like when they're sitting on a train and sort of like analysing each other, I thought was like really good script writing. I thought that always sticks out to me.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one. Absolutely, cool stuff.
Okay, so the quick fire round. What is the most Bondian thing you've ever done?
Oh no. Well, me and my friends used to have a lot of sort of tuxedo vodka poker nights. They always felt quite Bondish. But for my birthday, girlfriend booked me an Aston Martin drive, which I haven't done yet. But I imagine once I do that, that'll be my Bondian thing.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Nice. That is a good girlfriend. A girlfriend that books you an Aston Martin day is a good girlfriend. Definitely.
Yeah, it should be good. I'll try not to sort of freak out too much and crash, but we'll see how we go.
So you mentioned like you did poker with your friends, or at least you used to. How is there any reason why you don't anymore?
I think we keep talking about doing it again. It's just everyone sort of went different ways for university and stuff.
Yeah.
And we ran out of money.
Yeah.
That would be a good event, wouldn't it? Getting all the JBR listeners together for a massive poker tournament. Though we'd all be wanting to be James Bond and getting upset when we lost. So the last question then is, if you could make your ultimate James Bond film with any actor as Bond, any director and all that kind of stuff, like whatever you dream up in your mind you could have, what would you have?
Man, I don't know. So I can have any actor.
Yep.
I'd like to see Timothy Dalton's GoldenEye, not because I think the Pierce Brosnan one was bad, but I just think I'm just really interested to see what that would have been like. You know, you're always talking about like what ifs, all those what if Bond films I'd like to see.
That's an interesting one.
And obviously, I want to see Moonraker done justice as well.
Okay. Any favourite directors you'd like to get involved?
Steven Soderbergh, I think, is be a good choice.
It's the second time he's come up today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just think he's got a good like adaptable style in terms of his directing skills. I think it'd work well. He's not too like got one style, because there was talk about Quentin Tarantino doing a Bond film. He was going to do it like black and white with Pierce Brosnan. I think if you lean too much, if you like to adapt too much to director's style, you sort of lose the Bond there. But I think Soderbergh could make it his own and also keep true to Bond.
In a weird alternate universe, I'd like to see what a Quentin Tarantino Bond would look like. I think it would be so out there and weird and different. I don't think I would perhaps like it, but it would be interesting to see what he would come up with.
I think what I'd like to see is maybe not an Eon, not a Bond that's done by Tarantino, but something that's incredibly similar. Just so he doesn't ruin the series, but also that we get. Basically, I want to have my cake and eat it. Basically, I want to see his Bond film, but I don't want it to be a neon Bond film. So maybe one day he'll make some sort of spy type film and sort of show the world what he had in mind. I guess you never know. Maybe I have to wait and see. So whereabouts are you calling from, Josh?
I'm in Norwich, so I'm England based.
Flying the flag, keeping the British end up.
That's my job.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show then, Josh. It was a pleasure to chat to you. I've seen you popping up on Facebook and the comments pages and all that kind of stuff, so it's good to put a voice to a name.
My pleasure. I've been good to come on, so I enjoyed talking to you guys. Always listening to the podcasts on my drive to work, so to be on one is kind of a bit surreal, to be honest.
well, this Friday, when you're on your way to work, you'll be able to hear yourself, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
No, it's been great chatting to you, Josh.
All right, take care. We'll see you soon.
Guys, see you later.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
So that was good listening to Josh. I couldn't believe when he said, like, he obviously didn't know Bond when he was really young, and then he watched GoldenEye and he thought that was it. That was James Bond, nothing else. And then his dad's like, well, no, there is one or two more. And then suddenly the whole world opens up.
Isn't
to him.
that funny? That's almost a glimpse into an alternate universe where there was just one Bond film and that was it. Do you know what I mean? It's like all these like generic action films that come out over the years. It's like that features a character that has one chance in the spotlight and then there's never any sequels or anything like that. And imagine a world where that would have happened to Bond, where there was just no more.
Well, it wouldn't be a happy world. But also, it seems kind of strange. I can't remember how old he said he was. But you just think Bond is in the media so much that it would be so hard not to know that there's more than one. But I mean, amazing that it wasn't, and even better for him because then he was suddenly like, "Wow, check it out." So
imagine imagine if there was like another 5 or 6 Bond films that just were like lost films that we didn't know about. How amazing that would be.
I do occasionally have dreams about like Bond where I'm sure they are Bond films, but I slightly expand a scene or something else happens, but it's not just a dream. It is like, say it's Diamonds Are Forever, there's Winton Kids, for instance, but they do something else which isn't in the film, and I'm like, wow, it's like watching this new part of Bond or something.
Yeah, it is crazy, isn't it? Like things like deleted scenes and stuff that we haven't seen before. Like
so good.
You see them obviously for the more recent movies, but like I'd love to see some deleted Dr. No scenes and things like that, man. That would be incredible stuff.
That's gold dust.
Yeah, completely. Cool. So it was good talking to Josh. So next up we have Mr. Ralf Lewandowski. So let's cut to Ralph's interview and have a chat with him.
So we're on to number 5 of our Fancast interviews for the 1-year anniversary James Bond Radio podcast. And next up we have Ralf Lewandowski. Say hi, Ralph.
Hi, Ralph.
Hey, Ralph. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
No, not at all. It's a pleasure. And whereabouts are you calling from, Ralph?
I'm in Hamburg right now, so it's Pierce's territory. Yeah.
I've got to tell you, man, out of all of our interviewees, I'm blown away by the amount of effort you've made. Look at how dapper you look. It's incredible. For our listeners who aren't watching the YouTube stream, Ralf is sitting there in a full-on dinner jacket with a bow tie. He's got his Skyfall poster in the background. I'm loving it.
I also have a Walther PPK named shot.
Nice. Very nice.
I'm loving it. Excellent.
Yeah,
Complete with
thanks.
silencer.
I feel a little underdressed now. Maybe we should have spruced up a bit. What do you think?
Yeah, me too. Me too. Damn it. We should have. It's a special occasion. We should have dressed up.
Yeah. Next time we'll dress up now. So at least you passed on some goodwill in terms of the how we're going to dress up for later on. Excellent.
Good stuff. So first of all, then we're going to go through our 007 questions, and the first one of which is Ralf Lewandowski. What is your favourite James Bond film?
My favourite James Bond film is Die Another Day.
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
I was going to say.
Tom nearly had a heart attack then.
Yeah, that was an abomination.
Okay.
I feel like I'm really sorry for Piers. It's actually The Living Daylights.
Excellent choice.
Yeah, I think that it has an amazing pre-title sequence on Gibraltar.
My favourite.
The John Barry score is great. Kara is a decent Bond girl. I mean, she's not the typical damsel in distress, and she can be annoying, but I really like her relationship and the chemistry between her and James. It has a great mix of rough action and humor, which is quite difficult to do because when you look at the Roger era, then you have overwhelming comedy, and later Dalton film, the second one, was mainly about violence. And The Living Daylights managed to combine those two really well. And there's so many wonderful action sequences, you know, the rooftop chase in Tangier, then there's the cargo plane escape, for instance, and of course the chase with the Aston Martin in the snow and the gadgets. You have two Q briefings, one with the ghetto blaster, which always gets me cracking, and the scientist swallowing sofa. That's a really good one. And I think it's Timothy has done a marvelous job on that.
It is a great one. That pre-title sequence is one of my favourites in the whole series. I really, really dig that. Like that sequence, basically, what I love to see is I like seeing the other 00s. Whenever they crop up in whatever form, I love to see that. And the kind of like the sneakiness whenever Bond gets a bit sneaky in that whole kind of like stealth entry with the skydive, parachuting in, and he's kind of sneaking around, scoping everything out, and then it bursts out into balls out action on top of the Jeep. I love it. I think that's a brilliant top 5 opening sequence for me by a long shot.
Also, the first shot when you see Timothy Dalton for the first time, it's so good when he turns around and he has the other 00 screaming. That's another thing that I love, isn't it? It's like when you with the first time you see a new Bond actor, when they don't reveal his face until a little bit later, like they do it with Sean, they did it with Pierce, they did it with Tim, with George as well.
With George as well, obviously, and it's I love that sort of building of tension, and that's a great one. Yeah. Excellent choice.
It's a nice head turn as well, there, isn't it, Tim? It is pretty iconic when he does it. And I think also one of my favourite scenes in that film, the Blade in Safe House with Necros and the exploding milk bottles. I mean, that's just such a good scene.
Yeah, it's top notch. And some people might say that the film has weak villains, but I think Necros just makes up for it.
He's brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, I think the funny thing about Living Daylights is like, you know, with the plot of something like Dr. No, for example, it's like the villain's plot is dead simple. It's like toppling rockets to play 2 countries off against each other and start a war. Goldfinger, dead simple plot. Whereas Living Daylights is a lot more sophisticated, isn't it? It's like if you showed that to a kid who's like 13, I feel like they would struggle to kind of pick up on the various elements of what the villains are trying to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there is a bit to that. But,
I think I know what you mean, but I've seen it for the first time when I was about 15, and it was a bit complicated, but then those comedy moments just got me every time.
Absolutely.
It's
excellent
good.
choice.
So on to question 2 then, Ralf. What is your favourite James Bond book?
That would be From Russia with Love. Because I think the plot is very ingenious. You mean using as bait to get Bond, and the fact that the first 2 chapters are written from Soviet perspective entirely, that's a really good good move by Fleming, I think.
It's funny, isn't it? In that book, I remember Bond doesn't show up for ages, does he? It's almost like halfway through the book does Bond actually finally show up.
Yeah, you get sequences like the massage of Red Grant, where he's described, every muscle of him is being described, and you don't get to see Bond until halfway through the book, I think.
It was a brave move by Fleming on that one. But I think it definitely paid off, just analysing who his competition is going to be. And you know there's going to be a showdown later on, and you're seeing just how good this guy is and how sort of intimidating this Red Grant character is. But I think, kudos to Fleming for doing that. It worked well.
Yeah, and as for the showdown, I think that it's also ingenious how he managed to survive the shot in the heart. And it's a bit different than in the film, but it's a really good move with the metal cigarette case.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to the next question. Who is your favourite Bond girl?
Now, I gave this one a little thought the other day, and I think going entirely by looks, it would be Jane Seymour in Live and Let Die.
Very nice.
That's the second
really
one of this evening as well, isn't it? Second Jane Seymour.
That's the second time Jane Seymour's cropped up today.
Good. And not judging by look, it would be Barbara Bach as Agent XXX.
Very nice. I would say Barbara Bach is gorgeous, so not judging by looks as well is an interesting choice. So expand upon that a little bit for us.
I think she's really James Bond, just female and Soviet. She also has gadgets. She knows the martial arts, and she's a really strong character. And the chemistry between her and Roger is perfect. You know, the scene where they enter the catacomb that are actually headquarters, and there's General Gogol and M, and when they compliment her on getting the microfilm first, she gives them that look, and the look is just brilliant.
Yeah. She's great. So this one might be, I don't know if this one's going to be tricky or not, but question 4, who is your favourite James Bond actor?
It's quite tricky, but on the other hand, it's not when you think about it for a little longer. Yeah. I mean, Pierce was my hero of my childhood.
Mine too.
Yeah, I heard you used to comb your hair. Just like
he still does sometimes.
And I still do a little bit, I'll be honest. Yeah.
I really like them all, and I don't want to devalue anyone, but when you look at the entire franchise, it has to be Sean. I mean, he's physical, and yet he manages to move like a panther and do the sneaky spying thing. He does his one-liners, he gets all the ladies, and he can be really ruthless, like when he's shooting Dr. Dent, Professor Dent and Dr. No.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to devalue the other actors because they're all excellent and each of them added something to the franchise, but Connery is just the ultimate one. And you can't, when you talk about the others, you can't get around comparing them to Sean. So,
like we've often said, it's kind of like Sean is almost like, I don't know whether perfect is too strong a word, but like he's like the perfect personification of James Bond, and then all the other actors, while they all have their strengths and weaknesses, they all kind of leave one. Like if Sean ticks all 5 boxes that you need to be the perfect Bond, everyone else kind of ticks maybe 4, maybe 4.5 boxes, but they always have something that they don't quite do as good as Sean does. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Pierce, for instance, got all the ladies, and that's mainly why I wanted to be like him when I was small.
Yeah, me too.
But he hasn't got this smoothness that Sean had.
I feel like Sean was like the smoothest with the ladies, but he had that sense of danger that perhaps Pierce didn't have. Like Pierce was a very good-looking dude, very smooth and suave with the ladies, but did you get that sense of menace and danger that you got with Sean? I think that's probably the thing that was missing a little bit there.
There's a good way that you described that in one of the previous podcasts, Tom, where with Sean, when he's looking at a lady or with a lady, you don't know whether he's going to kiss her or kill her. And equally, you wouldn't be surprised by either one. He was that sort of person. And I don't think any of the others quite has that in equal measure up to Sean.
Though with that said, I'll tell you that, though, Pierce has the highest kill count out of any of the Bonds.
Yeah, but that's because he's got a machine gun and Tomorrow Never Dies going around a boat and doing it like that. So that means nothing. Don't worry about that.
That's true. Good point. Good stuff. So next question. What is your earliest memory of Bond?
Ooh, I think I have a fairly good memory, but it's difficult to place it in time. I was about 7, 8, and 9, I think, and actually it was 2002 because Die Another Day came out that year.
Oh, yeah.
And they were airing all the previous Bond films on TV every Monday. And one night I couldn't fall asleep. I had a terrible nightmare or something, and my mum was watching Live and Let Die, and I just remember coming up to her and seeing the scene where Roger jumps on the crocodiles and escapes the crocodile farm. And that scene was so good. And then gradually I got some of them on VHS. I got Tomorrow Never Dies. That was my first James Bond VHS. And then the DVDs. And then I read the books fairly recently. But yeah, my earliest memory is Live and Let Die.
If that's the first Bond scene that you saw, that's a great one to kick things off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like running across the cross.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I also remember... go on, Chris, sorry.
I was just going to say, it's quite interesting that you've had a nightmare and then you come down to see Live and Let Die and you probably see Baron Samedi and then go back upstairs and have another nightmare again.
That character freaked me out so much, especially when Bond shot him in the head and then his eyes go and see the wound.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember playing with Lego bricks and just recreating some of the scenes, and I was humming the James Bond theme all the time. It was and probably still is my favorite piece of music.
I will go on the record and say the James Bond theme is the greatest piece of music ever written. Like, you can forget your Bachs and your Beethovens. It's all about that one, I think. That's my choice.
I'd back you up.
Good stuff. Closely followed by Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cool. So here's another interesting one, actually, Ralph. I don't know if you've been to many James Bond locations before, but do you have a favourite one that you have visited and perhaps one that you'd like to visit?
Well, I've been to London last summer, so I visited some of the locations. And I live in Hamburg, so I obviously visit the locations that the film shot here. But I would definitely like to visit Piz Gloria. And I heard that there's a restaurant on top now, and I would go there and I'd order beluga caviar and the Bollinger and just enjoy the view and hum the theme from Her Majesty's.
I'd imagine, in my head, that they have the soundtrack or the song playing on loop. I know they probably don't, but that's what I imagine. That if I walked in and I didn't hear that, I'd be like, "Oh, come on, someone quickly turn it on." But yeah,
you know, it's funny how Majesties is one of those movies that divides opinion a lot with Bond fans. You've got people like Chris and I who worship the film and love every second of it, and then you get the others who will say, "Oh, it's not very good. It's like a dodgy one." But the number one location everybody seems to want to visit is Piz Gloria, isn't it? It's like the most popular answer we've had by far.
Well, it's so similar to how it is in the film still, and I mean, as a place to visit, it's such a visually beautiful place as well, and everyone just wants to ski or snowboard down the hill, listening to the tune, thinking they're Bond.
I've been skiing for the first time last winter, and all I did when going down the slope was just having a theme in my head and trying to look cool, even though it was my first time. And didn't work out.
I've never been skiing or snowboarding in my life, and it's one of those things I really want to try. But I feel like you would have to prepare yourself by having your iPod in your ears playing Bond soundtracks all the way. Then you'd have Bond 77, Majesties, and the Bond theme probably. That would be the way to go. Maybe some Beach Boys in there as well for good measure. Cool. So next question, and this is a tricky one. If you can possibly narrow it down, what is your favourite scene in the entire series?
That's an impossible question. There's so many. Ooh. I was thinking about this as well, and I narrowed down to 3. It was the GoldenEye tank chase.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Then the Spy Who Loved Me parachute jump in the pre-title sequence.
Nice.
And I think it's actually my favorite. The scene with Fiona and Sean, where he walks in on her when she's having a bath. She asks him to give him something to put on, and he gives her flip-flops, sit down in this chair, and just gives her the look.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, that's the second time that one's come up today as well. Yeah. That is a great scene.
That is brilliant.
It's wonderful.
Cool.
I like the way that you've spread them out as well. Your favourite scenes, and there's 3 different Bonds in there. That's nice. I like that. Good.
You know, it's funny. It's funny, like with older Bond films, like the ones, you know, when you're a kid, there's all those old Bond films that have always been there and always been part of your life. Like sometimes you forget just how good some of those scenes are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you think about, you mentioned the whole skiing off the cliff in Spy Love Me with the parachute and stuff. Like that is the business, isn't it? Like that scene is just fucking amazing, and it's kind of like, because it's always been there and it's always deemed as this classic scene, you kind of sort of forget what impact that must have had to see that for the first time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and sadly I can't recall seeing it for the first time, but I assume that when I did, I wondered like, how's he going to survive?
Yeah.
And then you see the parachute and the opening theme kicks in. It's just a brilliant scene.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the final quickfire question is, what is the most Bondian thing you've ever done?
That's not a hard one because I haven't done many Bondian things. It was back in summer 2013, and I had to take some photos for some documents. So obviously I dressed well with the suit and a white shirt. And on my way home, a random dude approached me, and he was very aggressive. I think he was drunk. So he tried to hit me or something, grab me like this, knock my sunglasses off my face. And then I just used some Aikido self-defense technique to bring him down. And it felt so good, the combination of being well-dressed and using martial arts. The only thing that I regret not having done was some cheesy one-liner in the end.
Yeah.
It would be so Bondian.
Dude, well, there's a lesson in life. Do not mess with Ralf.
Yeah, too right.
There you go. That's an amazing story. I think that's my favourite one.
Well, thinking back, I should have run away or at least thrown a one-liner at him. But I didn't try that.
Yeah, damn it. It's tricky when you're on the spot like that to think of a decent one-liner. Yeah. You have to prepare one just in case it happens again. I hope it doesn't.
I will.
Cool. I think that is probably the most Bondian thing any of our guests and listeners have done, I think. Like
whatever will do.
Yeah,
if you had a martini in one hand at the same time, that would have been it. That would have been pinnacle.
Yeah. And then the Bond theme playing in the back.
You know, if we're ever fortunate enough to interview any of the Bond actors on the podcast, that's going to be a question we'd have to ask them, and it would be a very difficult thing for them to answer, being James Bond himself. Anyway, so if you could make the ultimate Bond film with any actor, any director, any storyline, or whatever, you know, whatever you dreamed up in your mind you could have, what would you go with?
That's a tricky one. I think I'd go with a Cold War setting, and it would be set somewhere in the 80s.
Okay.
Sean would be in it. And as a villain, I'd choose Max Zorin.
Ah, okay.
That would be good.
And Mayday, because I think they're just a brilliant villain combo. And or Elliot Carver, because I really like him, and the world domination, same old dream plots. They really apply to me. And there would be the Aston Martin DB5, some really cool chase. It's a difficult question to answer.
So you'd have A View to a Kill with Sean Connery in it, basically.
Yes, and less stuntman, and
Would that be Connery in his prime from the 60s, or Connery as he was in the 80s?
No, it would definitely be one of his four first movies.
Cool stuff.
So, just a very quick one as well, Ralf. Spectre's coming up soon. Bond 24. What would you like to see out of Spectre?
I would like to see the On Her Majesty's theme somewhere in the background, or a bit a remix of it, maybe a slight remix, slightly applied to the modern times.
Nice.
I'd like to see a decent Bond girl that doesn't get killed off halfway through the film, and I'd like to see basically what we saw in Skyfall, the return of the classic Bond. I know they went back to the roots in Skyfall, and I really liked that because I didn't enjoy Quantum that much. Casino grew on me with the time, but I think Skyfall was just a really good one, and I like to see that the same thing in Spectre, the same approach to Bond. The bit of humor, a bit of action. That's the mix.
So without revealing anything, if you have you checked? Have you sort of indulged in any of the spoilers and leaks and stuff that have happened recently?
Yes, I
don't say a word. Don't say a word. Don't tell me anything.
I won't.
Okay, good stuff.
Well, it's been great to have you on board, Ralf. It's some really pretty cool stories you've had going on. So it's been great to get a perspective from Hamburg as well. Obviously, you must have visited the Atlantic Hotel over there?
It was the Atlantic Hotel with Dr. Kaufman.
Yeah, we'll have to make a trip to Hamburg at some point, Tom. What do you think?
Definitely, and we'll just make sure we don't mess with Ralf, otherwise he'll
yeah.
he'll give us a judo chop, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
I might record a video of the locations here and post it to your Facebook channel.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, that'd be great,
do that.
yeah.
Definitely. There's nothing we love more than Bond locations and stuff. So definitely do that. Cool.
I wanted to talk about something earlier, but perhaps we can talk about it right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of course.
My first impressions on Casino Royale. I was 12 when I've seen the film, and I was really disappointed because obviously I was used to the older ones, and Die Another Day didn't seem like a piece of crap back then. And it was just really dark. I think the film wasn't aimed at a 12-year-old. What do you think?
No, I think that's what it is. I think it's the same with if you were a 12-year-old now, or a 10-year-old, or a 12-year-old, and someone showed you License to Kill or Casino Royale to a certain extent. It is just that slightly age bracket ahead of that. Really, it's not the same as showing them a Roger or even like an early Sean, to a certain extent. So I think how it, in terms of how that's changed, it's grown on you more. How do you sort of rate it now then?
I think it's a really good Bond film, but what it lacks is the Bond theme. I don't want to devalue David Arnold because the score is excellent, but I think there are certain moments that are classified by me as Bond moments, and you need to have the Bond theme in it. Like during the parkour sequence when he takes the excavator and just drives with it, or uses a wrench to lower a yellow platform to go down. Those are those typical Bond moments, and I think that's bit more of the Bond theme would do the film.
You know what? It's funny, like that. For me, I think there's nothing more exciting than the Bond theme kicking in during a Bond movie. Do you know what I mean? Like when he does something cool and those notes start, it's just like instant chills down your spine. But I think like with Casino, I think maybe what David Arnold was trying to do there is kind of basically not use it too much because it's like the becoming Bond story. Do you know what I mean? And what I really liked, one of my favourite things about that is when you first see him in the dinner jacket, sizing himself up in the mirror, and you just get the strains of the theme come in there.
Lovely.
I love that bit. That for me is amazing.
Yeah.
And like I'm happy to not. I see what you mean. Like I feel like the Bond theme during the parkour sequence would have really been nice, but I feel like saving it for that climax of the film where he says the line, for me, like that's absolutely fine in my book. Like you can do whatever you want leading up to that point because that moment was
that
so
end
good.
scene is so good. That's amazing.
Yeah,
just gets your hair standing on end, doesn't it?
That also made up for the rest of the movie when I was 12. Just hearing the theme kick in and then seeing him kill the guy.
Yeah,
take him away, not really kill.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll have Spectre as a good one this year. Fingers crossed.
I won't say anything.
Good man. How do you listen to the show? Do you listen on iTunes or are you a YouTube guy?
I'm a YouTube guy, but I usually listen to it when going to bed. So I just play it and lie in bed, so I don't really watch it. But I play it on YouTube.
Well, we've had one of our listeners, an interviewees, Mark O'Connell, listens to us while he's in the bath. And you listen to us in bed, so I feel like we're getting intimate with our listeners on different levels.
We've got a lot of people listening driving to work and stuff, so I think we're covering all bases pretty much. Yeah.
I really like how your podcast just gets all the Bond fans from all around the world together.
The Bondian Brotherhood, that's what it's all about.
Seems like a family.
I'm curious to find a JBR listener who's engaged in the act of pleasuring a lady with James Bond radio playing in the background. That would be my goal. If anybody's done that, just call in and let us know. That would be nice.
Yeah, I think we'll put that as an ad on Facebook tomorrow and just see if we get any responses.
Oh no, all the weird ones are going to come out of the woodwork now.
Yeah.
All right, Ralf. Well, thanks for coming on the show. It was a pleasure, and I've just got to give you kudos again for preparing more than anybody else with your amazing outfit. It's great.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
Take care, Ralf.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you.
Take care.
Nice to meet you too. Bye.
Okay, I think Ralf, what a legend. First of all, he's gone to the trouble of dressing up. He's sat there in the full-on dinner jacket with the bow tie. He's got a Walther PPK complete with silencer at his side. Like, what a legend. And he is physically capable enough to take down an assailant and take him down to the floor whilst he was dressed well. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, does it?
No, that is one of the best Bondian moments we've ever had. And and he looked the part as well. The Skyfall poster behind him.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was good.
I think we should award that the greatest Bondian moment we've had so far, because most people say, when I travelled here or when I did this.
Yeah.
But that is an ultimate Bond moment, isn't it?
I think it's definitely up there. We'll have to keep a chart-topping list of the top JVR listener Bondian.
Damn right. We'll for the second birthday, we'll do a top 10 chart or something. That'll be good.
Okay, cool.
Good stuff. So on to our final interview of the day, which is would have been Mr. Simon Woolley, Agent Golden Voice himself, but we replaced him last minute with Antoinette Miceli, who we've seen burning up the Facebook timeline pretty much every day of the week, posting pictures of her 007 watches and all the rest of it and all that stuff. So let's have a chat with Antoinette. Okay, so our final guest on our anniversary show is Antoinette Miceli. Welcome to the show, Antoinette.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Antoinette.
Really nice to see you.
It's good to have you on board.
Same here.
So first things first, I'm going to say this for the people who aren't watching on YouTube. You've got an amazing poster behind you. Do you just want to tell our listeners what it is and where you got it from?
This is the 50 years of James Bond. This was a famous poster that was issued, I think it was last year, to 2014, right?
Yeah.
Commemorate the 50 years of James Bond.
Sounds about right.
And I thought, well, why not have it in my collection, And I bought it on eBay. Like I said, I mentioned that there's a lot of interesting items there you can find on eBay.
Oh, absolutely.
I finally got the book, and I'm starting to read it now.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Oh, wow. Nice.
That's the diary.
The Roger Moore diary from the Die. Yeah.
It's a really good one, that one.
Yeah.
And was that a James Bond watch that I saw on your wrist just there?
No, this is a Michael Kors. I didn't bring it on the Octopussy watch. I know I should have put it on.
You've shared quite a lot of your Bond watch collections on Facebook. I've noticed previously.
I'm kind of selective. Actually, this was one of some books that I actually got. The Matthew Parker.
Very nice.
Oh yeah, the GoldenEye one. Excellent.
Yeah. This one is For Your Eyes Only. This is by David Gianmarco. He's a well-known journalist, Canadian journalist.
Oh wow, I haven't seen that book before.
Yeah, really nice tidbits, interviews of all the stars, the James Bond stars, the Ken Adams interview, John Glenn. There's so many nice little tidbits in here.
Nice.
This is definitely a big favorite of mine.
Very nice. Bond girls are forever.
I like that one.
Nice collection there. According that Ursula Andress behind you, Chris.
Oh yeah, she does well.
And this is I call the pièce de résistance.
That is a beast of a book, isn't it?
It's a heavy book, that one.
This is like 5 pounds.
That's the Taschen, for our listeners, the Taschen James Bond Archives book. It's a huge beast of a.
It's a really nice piece to have. Really interesting footage behind the scenes of all the James Bond movies. Interviews again with all the stars, directors, cinematographer. The stunt coordinator. It's just amazing. Just great stuff.
You sound like a commercial. See what I did there? It was a double whammy.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we're gonna well, before we actually get through to the actual questions and the meat of the interview, where is it you're calling from?
Montreal, Canada.
Very nice. And is it freezing cold there at the moment, or is it all right?
It is freezing cold, and I'll tell you what the temperature is.
Is this outdoors or indoors?
This is indoors, actually. We call them, yeah. Outdoors. Let's see, weather. It is now presently 10 degrees.
Jeez, I'm currently in Los Angeles where it's very warm and sunny, so I feel your pain.
10 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow, that is cold.
Yeah, very cold.
Okay, then. So the first question in our 007 quickfire round, Antoinette, is: what is your favorite James Bond film?
Live and Let Die. That was the first movie. I have to say, I was introduced as a young child, young girl. My dad at the time, he's no longer with us today, but my dad was a big James Bond fan. And he asked me one night to sit down and watch it with him. And I was captivated. You know, just the elements, the actors, Jeffrey Holder. I mean, to this day, I mean, I'm still heartbroken that, he passed away, but he was such a, one of those characters that really just, captured my attention. All those little elements, that voodoo ceremony scene. I think, Chris, you were talking about it. I was like, I so identify with that picture on so many levels. Inspired my travels big time. I got married about 17 years ago. So one of our honeymoon trip was stopping in Jamaica. It was one of the
very nice.
So everything came full circle. And again, the boat chase scenes, everything about it. And, then, identify, Roger Moore, Jane Seymour, of course, the Bond girl, Yaphet Kotto, who happens to be a brilliant actor. He did Alien and, of course, did other motion pictures too. But that's my all-time favorite, really.
That is a great one. That's out of the Roger movies. That's my favorite of Roger's.
And it's funny because just a couple of weeks ago now, I've been revisiting the movies again with fresh eyes. And Roger Moore, I mean, there's that era where he portrayed Bond, in his own way. I don't know. I guess most of us, I think, grew up in that era. I think not only now there's a next generation that are kind of introduced from, let's say, in the 90s with Pierce, but also Pierce to me is also the second closest to Roger. And I really thought that was a natural transition between the two of them. Because I remember Remington Steele, I'm a big TV fan buff, and, he was always there, good looking, and it was a great TV series. So I really thought that he makes a very good Bond too as well. He's my second favorite.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting comparison, that, isn't it? Who's the closest to who in terms of Bond characters? But with Roger, you would say Pierce. Pierce is definitely the closest to Roger, I would say, above any of the others.
And I remember the big commotion back in the 80s. I mean, back then, internet didn't exist. And so the only information we had was Entertainment Tonight, was the entertainment news that we got footage, contract disputes and so on. I really thought he would be the next one, but, it didn't turn out that way. Timothy Dalton came along, and I had a hard time grasping that. I think, I don't know, they became more like action movies. There was something lost.
I think with those Timothy movies, especially License to Kill, that one feels to me like a lot of the other action movies of that era, like the Lethal Weapons and the Die Hards. Do you know what I mean? And it didn't sort of have that Bond feel or flavour to it.
Yes.
So I think you got a good point there. Yeah, but I think with the terms of like the Roger Pierce thing, like I would say Roger's skill was like the comedy and the being really smooth and suave with the ladies.
Yeah, the humor.
And Pierce definitely had that as well. Whereas like Sean was more of like he had the smoothness, and Sean had everything. Obviously, you can't take that away from him. But like I feel like Roger and Sean have a similar vibe with the ladies. That both very handsome dudes and very, very good with the one-liners.
But going back to that first movie, then of course I saw The Spy Who Loved Me, and again for Sofa. But then I discovered the Sean Connery, and Goldfinger was like, wow, you know what? Me, Goldfinger, I think is Sean Connery's staple movie. I think it has all the elements. I think it set forth for the other movies to come. Storyline, the plot, the villains. That's really one of my favorites of Sean's is Goldfinger.
I do like the fact that you had no hesitation when we said, what's your favourite Bond film? Straight away, Live and Let Die. A lot of people are like, it's a bit hard this, I like this one and this one. Straight away, Live and Let Die. And that's great because it is a brilliant film.
I know it is, but it was also, again, at the time when the movie came out, I guess, I don't know, I really loved the 70s movies, Black Exploitation, sorry, I didn't mispronounce that. Foxy Brown, the coffee movies with Pam Grier. So there's a bunch of actors there that, at that period where, I don't know, I guess I grew up watching it. So it left an impact on me for sure. And the vibe that I think...
So you've got a a lot about all the films and everything. Are you a fan of the books? And if so, question 2 basically is, what is your favorite James Bond book?
Honestly, I never read any James Bond, Ian Fleming books. The first one I've gotten was Octopussy, because I guess that backstory of Obenhauser kind of struck me. I said, well, because the movie has nothing to do with the book. And I was pleased to read the book. And, the writing is just phenomenal. That's just one book. And now I'm definitely going to be getting the collection of all the Ian Fleming books to really...
It's funny that, I envy anybody who's yet to read the Ian Flemings, because it's like I've read them so many times when I was growing up and stuff, and I would love to be able to just approach them completely fresh and not know what happens. So good on you. Let us know how, when you actually get around to reading them all, let us know how you feel, because you're very prolific on the Facebook, I've noticed. So you should leave some little book reviews on the blog or something. That would be good.
Actually, Stephen Cole, I've never heard of him. I mean, I've heard of him, but I've never read his book. And I think it's a different perspective, a different look, a different point of view, I guess. And I met some GDR listeners through Facebook and said wonderful things. And again, the podcast from last couple of weeks ago, I think I'm definitely going to get the book and read it.
Cool.
Get into it. Just to be on the same page, be aware, where are we at now with a whole different audience, a whole different, perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So this next question, I'm imagining we're going to get a slightly different answer than we usually get, which is...
Wait a second, let me get this little martini here.
Oh, there it is. Look at that.
Oh, nice. Why have we not got martinis, Tom? Come on.
We should have made the effort.
This is your first year anniversary, right? So you got to celebrate with style, right?
That's true. We should have made more of an effort, Chris, shouldn't we? Antoinette, what is or who is your favourite Bond girl?
Tough question. Well, it's not really tough. It's like, it is Octopussy. Oh. But I think it's Pussy Galore, not because of the name. I mean, it's too obvious. But I think because these women, I think they struck me as being very strong, tough women. I mean, if you want to go back, let's say, Maud Adams, she was really popular in the 80s. Again, going back to my TV days there. I mean, she was always on television. I mean, never was a guest starring appearance, but she had 2 TV television series that didn't last very long. But I guess she was very visible. But that movie, I mean, what's not to like, businesswoman, So she's a diamond smuggler. All these women working with her. It's kind of exciting, but I just wish they would have tweaked the character a little bit more, because she gets lost, I think, throughout the picture. Again, I've watched it so many times. I mean, it's still a good story. It's fun, adventure, but I think they could have given her a little bit more lines, I think.
You see, it's funny. It's interesting to get the woman's perspective on that, because whenever we ask the guys, it's always, well, I've got to break it down into two categories. One of which is the one that gets my blood boiling the most, and then the other one is the strength of character. So it's good. Octopus is the first time that's come up, actually, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah. It is. Although Mark O'Connell was Octopussy.
That's true. It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
And I read Mark O'Connell's book. Really fun book, and I really identify. I mean, cause again, we both grew up the same era. I mean, I was a little bit older than he is. I was like 13, 14 when Octopussy came out. I mean, it's a different perspective, but I just think that it's a fun movie. There's some really nice action scenes, and I read that she did her own stunts with the climbing up the wall there, the fortress, right? So she was very courageous. Good for her.
Good old Maud.
Yeah.
So now this question, question 4, might be one which I think you could answer straight away. This is, Antoinette, who is your favourite James Bond actor?
I have to say one.
Yes, you do.
It's Roger Moore.
Yeah.
Excellent. Roger Moore. Look, every generation has their own Bond, and then there's so many tsunami discussions, forums. I mean, it gets really nasty, but you know what? They all brought something different to the character. I grew up watching Roger Moore. Again, there was something about the humor. The women. And I don't know. It's Roger, and I think with Daniel Craig, the new Bond comes along. I had a hard time adjusting. I said, well, okay, just give the guy a chance. And Skyfall, I embraced it. I totally embraced it. It had all the elements, what a Bond should be. Great soundtrack, great story, great villain. Disappointed with character. And Judi Dench did a fine job. And,
it's funny, isn't it? Like, whenever the new guy comes along, like, for example, when Pierce was Bond, all the reports in the newspapers and stuff were saying things like, he's the best Bond since Connery, and it was like great reviews all around. Then Daniel comes along, and it's a different take on it, and now Pierce gets all the shit and all the flack for being not what Daniel is, Yeah.
But Pierce is my second. There is no question about it. I just saw November Man. I think he did an excellent job. He has his own swagger, his own style, or he's great as a spy.
And he enjoys it too. You can tell he really enjoys it, Pierce.
He gets right into it, and you can tell. I mean, I know that he spoke very low about it in some interviews, that he wasn't too happy with it. I don't know, but actors have very self-conscious. They're like artists, Yeah. But I think he did a fabulous job.
Absolutely. It's funny, isn't it? Because it's like, at the moment, the consensus is that Daniel is the great Bond, and that Pierce wasn't so good in the general, casual Bond fans, and even in some of the press and all that kind of stuff. But what you've got to take into account is like how they were in the time, suited to the time they were around. And for a lot of people, Roger Moore's Bond is James Bond. And people say a lot about Roger these days that, he sort of was the Joker and it wasn't as good as Connery or whatever. But like a lot of people, they want the submarine cars. Do you know what I mean? They want all the humor and all that kind of stuff. And to them, that is Bond. And you do see a lot of people saying that, Daniel's too serious, and they want an injection of fun back into it,
I mean, you see it on Facebook. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's like really people get so nasty about it. Listen, they're actors, I mean, okay, if you want to go back to the Fleming books, Dalton, got close to the character. Now Craig is actually more closer to the Ian Fleming's Bond, vicious. There's a seriousness to it, but like you said, he's kind of grumpy in the last couple of movies. I mean, Quantum of Solace, I must have seen it 3 times. I still don't get it.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. But first of all, and that's why with the Spectre, I'm so excited about this movie coming out. Really, like everybody, like now it's like, you know what? I'm ready.
Yeah, I think we all are. Absolutely.
It's going to be a good build-up.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So what would you say is your earliest memory of Bond?
You mean watching the film?
Or the first time, I guess it could be watching a film, or like the earliest time that Bond ever was a part of your life?
It's Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, the stunts were just awesome. I mean, even to the spy who loved me, the opening pre-title sequence. I mean, that was like, my God. It's like your jaw dropping moment. It's like, how can they do that again today with CGI?
Yeah.
And then after that takes over, and it takes over the movie, and you lose that element, what makes a good Bond picture. So I hope that the new Spectre comes out, that they know what they're doing, and I'm sure they know what they're doing.
It's all about real stunts, isn't it? That's the way forward.
I mean, that's how movies are. The stunts, I mean, CGI, it's nice, but I think it takes away the element of the movie. I think
I'm in total agreement there. What would you say, Chris?
Well, you know what I think about it. No, just look at Die Another Day.
You see, if Roger had surfed on a tsunami, he would have actually, well, he wouldn't have done it, he'd have got a stuntman, but they would have actually got a real tsunami for him to do it on. That's what
I think Pierce mentioned it. I think in Everything or Nothing, the documentary, I think he was a little bit too admit it was an embarrassing moment.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's a Bond movie. We have to just suspend disbelief for 2 hours and just enjoy the ride.
That's good words to live by, I think. So on to question 6 then, Antoinette. Yes. Out of all the James Bond locations, which one would you like to visit the most that you haven't visited before?
Well, I've been to Italy. I've been to Rome. I've been to Venice. I would think I would like to go to is it Piz Gloria? Piz Gloria.
Okay. Piz Gloria is a good one.
Again,
I'm not a skier. I'm not into outdoor winter sports, but I mean, it's just the fact just going there and taking a ski lift ride. It's just awesome. I mean, the pictures are just beautiful.
That is the number one location. Pretty much everybody answers. They all want to go to Piz Gloria. I think we need to do a JBR field trip.
I was just about to say that's exactly what we have to do: is organise a massive JBR get together on top of Piz Gloria.
And Tom, you're so lucky that you went to
James Bond Island.
James Bond Island. That was amazing. If you guys can bring more videos and more pictures to the website.
Definitely.
Yeah, we will.
I really enjoyed looking at that, and hearing other people's story, where they've been, and you guys, of course, live in the UK, so you're right there. You have the museum, you have all the famous the locations.
All the locations, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. So, if you can possibly narrow it down to one, what would you say is your favourite scene in the whole series?
Favorite scene?
Yeah.
Does that include the pre-title sequence or not?
It includes anything you like.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well, I'm a big fan of the water.
Okay.
So it has to be the boat chase.
Okay.
In anyone in particular that stands out for you?
Well, I mean, Live and Let Die obviously introduced. I mean, that particular scene, the boat chase. Or the Sea-Doo, I think, the Sea-Doo? No. The Ski-Doo.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The Sea-Doo and,
Why You Love Me.
or the boat, the underwater sequence in For Your Eyes Only, which they did that in the studio.
Okay, yeah.
But when Roger...
The hair dryer.
It was a hair dryer. Blow the tube and blowing bubbles. So I thought that was awesome. Awesome.
So underwater scenes in general are your
underwater, over water. As long as it's by the water, anything near the Caribbean, I'm happy. I'm very happy.
And there's quite a lot of that in the series, so there's a lot of pleasure to be had for yourself then. So final question of the quickfire round then, Antoinette. What is the most Bondian thing you have ever done?
On water, I have to say parasailing.
Very nice.
Was that on the tsunami?
Yeah, on the tsunami. No. It was one of my trips to Dominican Republic in Punta Cana. I've been there so many times. So I wanted to go on the Sea-Doo. That was fun, first of all. And getting onto the speedboat, take you to the other boat where the parasailing, parachute apparatus. And it was fun. I mean, just a little thrill.
Very nice. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
sounds good.
So, final question. If you could make your own ultimate Bond film starring any actor as Bond, with any director, doing any storyline, whatever you dream up, you could do, what would you have?
Oh my God. Name any director, what cast, what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, who would you have as Bond, for example? Who would be your ideal Bond in your own personal Bond movie?
Well, right now, I think I still like Pierce.
Okay.
I think he still has it. Yeah, the age is there, but I mean, we all age, right? And I think he still has it.
Do you know what? When I saw the trailer for November Man, that's the first thing I said. I was like, he could still pull it off. He's still got it.
Yeah, he can. And directing it, I mean, I don't know, Sam Mendes maybe, because he's done good work.
Okay. Very nice.
And what about a Bond girl or a Bond villain? Any particular person who you'd like to play those?
Well, let me tell you something. The Scandinavian women, they did their job.
That is true.
I'm happy that the Italians are coming up, and Monica Bellucci being cast, I was pleasantly surprised.
Nice.
Maybe her or somebody of that caliber. I don't know. Who's still out there that's still? I don't know.
I think it's incredible that it's taken this long to turn Monica Bellucci into a Bond girl. She's just like, she's been
I'm
around.
excited. I'm so excited. I just can't. I hope that they just give her lines to say.
Yeah, and don't kill her off after 20 minutes.
Maybe like an on-speed Bond cat fight with maybe Léa Seydoux. We don't know. But at least yeah. So it's it's some fun. You gotta throw in some fun there. I mean,
that would be a great scene. That would be an amazing. I'm ready for that scene already.
You've got that going through your mind already, haven't you, Chris?
I have. Yeah.
He's got this image, but anyway.
Cool stuff. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Antoinette. It's been good to. We've seen your name popping up on Facebook so much. It's been good to put a face and a voice to the name.
Thank you. And can I have a shout out to a couple of the guys too?
Of course you can. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course,
Simon, Jeff, Anno, Linda, Jack, Harris. I guess to you guys too. And thanks again for having me, and good luck, and looking forward to the new podcasts.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Antoinette. It's been a pleasure.
Same here. Take care, guys.
Okay, bye.
You too.
Bye.
Well, that was nice speaking to Antoinette. Like you said, she's always on the Facebook page, and you see pictures of people, but it's nice to sort of get to see them and have a chat. And I love the fact that she had the golden poster behind her, glass of martini on the side. I feel like we should have rocked that theme a little bit more ourselves, maybe. So, anniversary number 2, we might have to do it.
Absolutely. We got dressed up for Honor Majesties, didn't we, for that episode?
We did.
We got our outfits on there. So maybe next year. Maybe next year we should resolve to do a live broadcast from a Bond location or something, and just really make it a special one.
I think that's going to have to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great interview with Antoinette as well.
Yeah. So that was good fun, wasn't it? 6 interviews with some of our listeners. It was good to put faces and voices to names that we see on Facebook all the time. It was good to hear from everybody. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because, like we sort of mentioned as we were interviewing, there were 1 or 2 similar answers that came up. There were 1 or 2 completely different answers. But it's just nice to, like you said, just to meet them. Everyone is different, got their own opinion. And like we said, we'll definitely do another Fancast in the future. So when
absolutely.
we know, we'll let our listeners know.
And if you want a heads up on that when we do it, make sure you join us on Facebook and Twitter and join the mailing list and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you do that. So as we haven't been talking about a specific topic this week, we don't really have any Bond facts, do we? So we're going to have to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, so they're not quite Bond facts. So what I did was I was trying to look for Bond fan stories. Now, there are quite a few out there, but I picked sort of 2, one of which I think we've previously mentioned before in a podcast, which I thought we'd describe in a bit more detail. But the first one is one which I hadn't heard before. So our Bond fan story number 1 is hailing from Calgary, Britton Walker. He was interviewed on the Ellen DeGeneres chat show in December last year. Now, this guy, he's only 7 years old, and he got into the Bond movies in his 60s. So, yeah, he's cute, isn't it? He's especially a fan of the action, smooches, and the music. So that sounds right up your street.
Hey man,
smooches and music.
that was my prime age for my childhood ladies really? Madness as well. So yeah, we're on the same page there.
I like it. So Jeff Walker, his dad, said that he may be the youngest Shirley Bassey fan. And it's something to see a 7-year-old singing old Bond classics like Diamonds Are Forever or Goldfinger. So he can sing as well, which is pretty cool.
Good lad.
Now, a few weeks ago, his parents downloaded an app called Quiz Up. I'm not sure if you've heard of this.
Now, I'm just going to stop you there, Chris, because I downloaded Quiz App maybe 18 months ago. And basically what it is it's an app on your phone that there's like loads of different categories, everything from general knowledge to science to everything, and there's a James Bond category. So I thought I'm gonna get some of this. So I go onto the app, and basically what it does is it pitches you against somebody else in real time. So whenever you play the quiz, so basically it's you versus somebody else in the world. It poses you a question with 4 multiple choice answers, and then there's a time limit. So the sooner you answer, the more points you get. And I was like, right, I'm and there's basically like a ranking leaderboard of like everybody's scores, and I managed to get up to number 2 in the UK and number 6 in the world. I really went for it.
Why have I never heard of this before? Why have you never told me this before?
I don't know why it's never come up, but so I did that. But the problem was, the problem is with it is it's not really an accurate representation of your knowledge, because the ranking is based on the total number of points, which means essentially it's the number of games you've played rather than your actual performance in each round.
So were you on it solid for like 2 weeks straight to get to number 2?
I shit you not, man. I was literally every spare moment I had, I'd knock out a round on it, and it was gradually climbing. But the problem is like that is the problem, and you can buy these like booster packs for like £5, which times your points by like 10 or 20 or whatever. So basically, I know. So any old muppet could jump on there and get to number 1 in Bond just by pure volume rather than knowledge. So there is a function on there which is to challenge an individual user. And I challenged the number 1 dude. I was like, right, I'm going straight for the top. Challenge the number 1 dude, and I beat him every time. So there it is.
Wow.
Yeah, it was close because it's like the time limit. You have to answer pretty much instantly to get 4 marks. But I got.
So you could pretty much be said to be the number 1 Quiz Up Bond fan in the UK. I'm not. Well, the world actually, Chris. The world. I'm not going to apologise. Yeah, I'm not going to claim that throne for myself, because I mean this was a while ago now, so I'm sure I've dropped right down the rankings, and the number 1 spot's even higher than it was before. But I am on there, so if you see me on the leaderboard somewhere, where it's just my name, you can challenge me, and I'll get a little alert, and we'll go 1-on-1 on the Bond quiz. And you should get it as well, Chris, and we'll have. I just can't believe I've never heard of it. It's something that every time I was on the crapper, I'd be on it.
Exactly, it's perfect for that. Like you do a round, it takes less than a minute. It's great. Anyway, sorry, I hijacked your story. You can go back to it.
That's fine. So, Britton Walker, who's not a Muppet. He's 7 and he's a Bond fan. He a few weeks ago, his parents, like I said, downloaded this Quiz Up thing where Britain quickly climbed the ranks among 40 and 50-year-olds to become the top-ranked Bond expert in Canada, followed by a top 10 ranking worldwide. So I could see sort of like a match-up between you and this young Britain.
I'll take him down.
Guy. Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Right. So his dad said we were just blown away, adding that he could ask his son questions like what the 13th Bond movie in the franchise was. Any ideas, Tom?
Do you know what? Those are the ones that always catch me out. Because that is one of the questions that comes up. It will say, what is the 10th Bond film? And you have to go, and because there's the time limit, you have to really act fast. And they're the ones that always screw me out. So I 13th, Octopussy?
Yeah!
Nice.
Come on. Quiz Up, he's still back.
There we go.
Okay. So he asked his son questions like, what is the 13th movie in the franchise? Or who sang a certain song? And Britain could answer them all. He was the real deal, his dad said. Of course, his dad said he hasn't seen the movies in their entirety, especially not the naughty bits, which quickly get fast-forwarded. But he can still list Bond girls, villains, and movies in chronological order, even down to stunt actors and directors. I'm beginning to like this guy.
Yeah.
And I know we had an idea of having a podcast at one point for our super young fans. So if we can get this guy on and a few others, that could be quite good fun.
That would be cool.
So on the show, Britain had the crowd giggling. Turns out being a Bond fan turns him into quite the charmer. The poker-playing youngster told Ellen DeGeneres he's hoping Santa will bring him a tuxedo for Christmas because how else is he supposed to grow up to be the next James Bond?
Good lad.
What a dude, hey?
I love that stuff. I love starting them young like that. I love seeing kids getting into Bond and discovering it all for the first time. I think it's magical. I love it.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so for our second Bond fan story, this is one who's probably be quite familiar to some of our JBR listeners. Restaurant owner Nick Bennett has the world's biggest collection of James Bond memorabilia. The 47-year-old from Lee near Wigan has an eye-watering. This is probably higher than this amount now, but we've listed 12,463 Bond-related items and says that he was acquiring more by the day. So, 12,500. That's a lot. That's a huge amount.
Yeah.
So they range from everything from a James Bond snow globe and a You Only Live Twice Pepsi can, interesting, to toy cars worth more than £20,000.
Jeez.
Yeah. Now, Nick has been acknowledged in the latest edition of the Guinness Book of World Records, which is this year celebrating its 60th anniversary, which is that last year or this year? I'm not sure. Nick developed his fascination with the infamous secret agent James Bond film after watching his first film, age 7. So there we go, again, starting them young. However, it was only upon the release of the film GoldenEye, age 28, that he switched from being a toy collector to amass his Bond collection. See, GoldenEye, same film as you.
Yeah,
that's the one that
I feel like GoldenEye was a pivotal film for a lot of people.
Yeah, it definitely was. Like a villain out of the Bond series, Nick has a secret lair at his home where he houses the collection away from prying eyes. Now, I wonder if he's got a monorail.
He's got to have a monorail. And a very forgiving missus as well. That's got to be the case.
Oh, my God, yeah, definitely. So he says his favourite film is Dr. No. That's brilliant because we don't hear that often, and Dr. No is such an underrated film. But that Roger Moore and Sean Connery as favourites from the elite club of Bond actors. He said, "It's a dream come true. As a child, I read the books from cover to cover, and I cannot believe that I will actually be in this year's..." Oh, he's referring to the Guinness Book of World Records. "As a child, I read the book from cover to cover, and I cannot believe that I will actually be in this year's book as an official record holder. Pinch me."
Excellent stuff.
So that's that's great. There's a couple of fans.
Both of those guys sound like the kind of people we need to get on the show at some point.
Yeah, well, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Cool stuff. So that's Bond fan stories for this week.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I like it.
Nice.
Good stuff. So I think I'm getting a little bit nervous now after I did all the big talk about the Bond quiz up thing, because it's Bond trivia round, and you've thrown a surprise at me this time, which I'm a little bit nervous about. So I suppose I should start by answering my trivia question of the day. So I'll pose it again to you, Chris.
Okay.
How many knocks did Bond and Tatiana Romanova use as their cue to open the door to their room on the train in From Russia with Love?
I believe it was...
Well done. Absolutely. Good stuff. 3 knocks. Now, the funny thing about that is I feel like most people knock 3 times, don't they? Yeah.
It seems like quite a regular knock to do, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have done, like, maybe do it in a tune or something. Or exactly.
Yeah, he should have just knocked his
or
theme
even...
tune.
Can you knock in a James Bond theme? I don't know if you can do that.
That is what I just tried to pull off. Obviously, not very well.
Sorry. Actually, that was amazing, Tom. That was amazing.
I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try it again. See if you get it.
Okay. Okay. Go for it. Wow, the James Bond theme.
There it is. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, he should definitely do
totally
the
should
James
have used
Bond
that. I feel like that's something Roger would have pulled out of the bag. Actually, that would have been a little Roger man.
Definitely.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So lay it on me, man. What have you got for me this week?
So this one you're going to know the answer to, I promise you.
Okay.
But it's the speed in which you do it and the order in which you do it. Now there's a slight cheekiness to it, but you'll get this. Okay. So my James Bond speed trivia question.
Okay, just to give me a heads up, have I got several questions coming at me rapid fire?
No, it's one question, but the answers is not just one answer.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, so irrespective of a timeline impossibility, if the films were shot in the same sequence as the books with the same actors playing Bond, in what order would the actors who portrayed Bond be? Go.
Oh, you bastard. Daniel Craig.
Yes.
Roger Moore.
Yes.
Sean Connery.
Yes.
Oh fuck. George Lazenby.
Yes.
Timothy Dalton.
Yes, and
well, Pierce would come last.
Yeah, because he hasn't got any.
He hasn't got any.
Well, that's amazing.
Good stuff.
Woo! Round of applause for Tom there.
Do you know what? Those time limits really stressed me out. That was quite tough, man.
Was that tough?
Yeah.
Well, it's the sort of thing where you kind of know it, but when you are under pressure,
Yeah.
like, what? But yeah, you got them all right. Well done.
Do you know what? As a child, I used to have this thing. I used to do this on my school bus on the way into school, right? I don't know why, and I definitely, my speed will have dropped. I set myself a target to be able to say all the Bond films in order from start to finish as quickly as I possibly could.
That's
and
a good one.
I remember I would sit there and be like, "Don't know from Russia, love golfing, that we live twice times over every on the most Secret Service," and go all the way through, even though I just got them in the wrong order there.
Why did you finish?
Well, I fucked up. I put diamonds before on the Majesties, but
yeah.
there we go. And I don't know what time I got it down, but I remember practicing that.
Really?
All the time,
That's
and
amazing.
I never had an opportunity to actually display that skill because
Wow.
it's a useless one. Let's be honest, but it was something I used to entertain
I
myself.
tell you what. Podcast 33. You and I both have to. You've set the challenge there. We both have to say the films in order as fast as we can. Okay.
Deal. Okay. Good
So
stuff.
we'll have to be
look forward to that next
practicing
time.
between now and then.
All right. Cool.
Okay. Excellent. So that is Bond trivia. Good stuff.
Good stuff. So it's on to the guess the quote round.
Bond. James Bond.
There it is. Lovely stuff. So it was your quote last time, wasn't it?
It was indeed my quote last time, so I'll go through this again. My quote was, but that means I would have to be.
Now, it was one of those where I knew it, but I didn't know it. And I don't know whether I've made this up, but for example, for some reason, Christopher Walken's voice came into my head going, "Dead!" And then that was it. And I wondered whether I got that right or not.
You certainly did with the dead bit.
Nice.
But who said the quote?
I don't know. I can't remember the name of that character.
He finishes it. So it was Hal. Do you remember Stacey Sutton's boss, who was under Zorin's payroll, and when Bond and Stacey go back to City Hall to try and get their papers from the mine, Hal's there, and then Zorin sort of says that he frames Bond basically and says, "Oh, you'll be dead," and then Bond gets trapped in the fire, and then Hal's listening to it and then goes, "That means I would have to be." And then Zorin goes, "Dead," and then shoots him.
There it is.
Good
Cool.
run. Well done.
Thanks, man.
Nice
I kind of half got that then. I knew what it was from, but
well, you
not.
knew,
I could,
exactly. You knew the thing, so that's cool.
Good stuff. Okay, so my quote of the day is, and again, as is often the case, you'll instantly know who this is, but the setting of what it is the question, I suppose. Is there anything I can do to warm you up? I don't think there's any mistake in who that is.
Oh my god! I tell you what, I would love it if I'd love to just see you use Roger lines on women. I just love it.
Maybe that'll be a future one. Maybe we'll go out into the streets and see if we can seduce women with Roger lines and see how we
That's
get on.
got to be done. While we're recording it, it's got to be done. We'll probably get slapped about, but that would be amazing.
So I'll do that one more time.
Okay.
Is there anything I can do to warm you up?
That's amazing.
Any ideas?
I've got a feeling who it might be. Just a little feeling.
Yeah, I think you might have got that.
In terms of the film, that's it. Yeah, it's good. There's a couple of little flickers there. I think if I put my mind to it, I would probably get it. But I'm so.
It's one of those lines that could have been from several different places.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'll have a good think about it. But yeah, great quote. Excellent quote.
Okay, so last week we had a question from Jeff Silence, didn't we? A follow-up question to his quote, which was this.
In Octopussy, Kamal Khan and Orlov plot to set off a nuclear bomb at a U.S. Air Force base in Feldstadt, Germany. What I want to know is the name of the Air Force wing that is stationed at Feldstadt where the bomb is supposed to go off. So it will be a number and a name. Like, for example, the 101st Airborne. Good luck.
Okay, so you being the big Octopussy fan, did you get any inklings on that one?
You know what? I'm a little bit ashamed because I didn't. I mean, I remember the scene well. I know, like we say this before, but because we're watching the Bonds in order, I haven't seen any Bond out of order since we started doing the podcast. So anything that's beyond Live and Let Die, I haven't seen since before we watched Doctor No, which is a while ago now.
Yeah.
But that's not my excuse. I just didn't know. No, I tried to rack my brains over it, but I couldn't picture it in my head. So unfortunately, I didn't get that one. But super tough question. So
that is a
Jeff,
tough one.
For pulling that out of the bag.
So Jeff was good enough to call back with the answer. So let's see what it was.
Hey guys, Jeff Silence here again. My trivia question from the last episode was asking for the number and the name of the Air Force wings stationed at Feldstadt in Octopussy. The correct answer is the 120th Tactical Fighter Wing. During the scene when the circus is on parade to the airbase, they actually pass a sign stating that it is the 120th Tactical Fighter Wing. But of course, the focus of the shot is on Francisco the Fearless's cannon, where the nuclear bomb is hidden. So that can be pretty easy to miss. But Chris, if you got it, my hat's off to you, man. And you are the Octopussy expert. All right, guys. I really enjoyed the show. Bye.
So there we have it. Thank you for giving us the answer there, Jeff. And it was a good one. Stumped both of us. So, so good on you.
Tricky one.
Absolutely.
That one.
Good stuff. So we've got a new listener quote this week from one Mr. Daniel Gale, who is he's got a YouTube series called Bond Mysteries, which are quite interesting. So make sure you check that out. But here's the message and quote from Daniel.
Hello, Tom. Hello, Chris. I just wanted to say thank you for all the podcast. Well done on your 30th episode. It's a real achievement to release so much material in such a short amount of time and still keep it fresh. And even to this jaded fan's ears, exclusive. You're still flagging up facts and little tidbits that I didn't know about in spite of being a Bond fan for over 27 years. In that time, I've picked up a few weird and inexplicable facts myself, and I've been putting them on YouTube over the years since 2006, when YouTube first started, back when tiny, crappy quality videos were the norm. I've done nearly 40 of them so far, so if you search YouTube for Dan Gale's Bond Mysteries, you should be able to find my playlist. Right, plug out of the way, I have a quote for you. Can you name this character and the film that they're from? That was a verbatim impersonation. Best of luck with your next 30 episodes. This is Dan Gale from Station S in Somerset, signing off. Bye.
Okay, so you and I, we've got like a bit of a split opinion on this one, haven't we? I've got a feeling it's somebody, and you've got a feeling it's somebody else. So
I can kind of see how your somebody could potentially be the answer, but because this other character came into my head first, I'm going to have to stick with that one.
Cool.
But
Okay.
if your one came up, I wouldn't be surprised because it is quite similar, but I'm going to go with the first one that came in my head.
Okay, so obviously we'll get Daniel to reveal the answer to that in the next episode. So get your brains racking on the answer to that, and we'll find out which of us were right. We're not going to reveal our answers, obviously, because we don't want to colour your thoughts. We want to see if neither of us might be true. It might be a third one that we haven't considered. So it'll be interesting to see that. So thanks for that, Daniel, and obviously everybody make sure you check out his YouTube channel as well, because there's some Bondian goodness on that. So next up, what have we got, Chris?
We've got Guess the Music You.
That was beautiful. You did, and I loved every second of it. It was like hearing somebody else cover one of my songs. It was beautiful. I really liked it. Well done.
That's all right,
now, some of you might have noticed last week that I was a bit of a pillock and forgot to edit in the actual music cue. So if you were one of those that downloaded the podcast immediately, you would have missed it. But I quickly edited it in and re-uploaded it. So if you got it early, you missed it. But if you got it later, it would have worked out all right in the end and you'd have heard it. But we're going to play last week's music cue again now.
Okay, so what do you think of the one for this week? Did you have any ideas on that one?
So I knew it was some David Arnold, It's just got that vibe to it, but I don't know what it's from. It could be many scenes actually. I'm not really sure.
Could you guess a film if you had to hazard a guess as to which of the?
I would say it was either Quantum or Casino.
Yeah, well, you'd be right. It was, in fact, the stairwell fight in Casino Royale, a section from that. And I know Matthew Grice came in with the answer, and he's normally good with the music ones, and he got that one right. So
Grice is always there at the forefront, isn't he? He's always there.
He doesn't do too bad, no.
Yeah.
But no, so that was it. So okay, so we've got a new guest music cue for this podcast, and here it is. Did you have an idea for that one then, Tom?
Yeah, well, that for this score, this is the one that like you instantly know what film it is. Like, there's no mistake in any of the score of what this one is. I'm thinking it could be quite a few different sequences, but I'm going to rack my brain on that one. But I'm definitely warmer on this one than I was with last week's. That's for sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay, so we need to turn it over to our newest segment of Question Time at the end with some Simon Woolley created theme tune action. So let's do it.
Complete the lyric section.
Agent Golden Voice means complete the lyric section.
So that was good. We didn't get the interview with him, but at least he contributed with the
theme tune. There he is. He was here with his remarkable voice, though sounding a little bit more gravelly than usual. It must be said. Not quite as golden voiced as usual, or gravelly voiced. So there we go. So the lyric section from last week, my question I posed to you was this. I'm going to deadpan it and then we'll reveal the answer. In my time, I've said these words before, but now I realise.
Now, I think I know what song it's from. Am I allowed to guess now?
Go on then, go for it.
Yeah. I think it's from All Time High, Octopussy.
Would you like to know if you're correct?
Well, no, because I have to actually say this segment. Is it from Octopus? Are you allowed to tell me?
It is. Right, you've got. Oh, that's right. You have to give me the following line.
I've got.
Of course. Apologies.
Can you say it for me again? Sorry.
In my time, I've said these words before, but now I realise.
I realise. My heart was telling me lies.
Very good. And the next little bit?
Something we're an all-time high. What is it? Wait. I realised my heart was telling me lies. My heart was telling me lies.
What's the opposite of a lie?
Oh, truth. True. Wait a minute.
Come on, he's nearly there.
The heart was telling me lies. For you, they're true. We're an all-time high. No? Oh,
well, let's see. Let's see, shall we?
Okay. Oh, amazing! Oh wow, I didn't know you were going to serenade me. That's so cool. Okay,
in my time, I've said these words before, but now I realise my heart was telling me lies. For you, they're true. There it is.
That's amazing. That's beautiful.
So there it is. All-time high. You got it right. Well done.
Thank you. I feel very privileged, actually, to being serenaded like that. That's so good. Right, okay. So I've got a new one this week. Complete the lyric section. Now, I think this one actually is going to be, like that one I really had to think about. I think this one, not just because I know the answer, but I think this one should be a little bit easier, I think, for the majority of listeners. And I'm going to say it deadpan, because if I try anything else, it's not going to work.
I'm loving. I was loving your previous attempt with the different melodies weaved in. That was genius.
Man, it was like all planned, I promise you. Okay, so anyway, my complete lyric section for this week, for this podcast, is hold one up and then caress it.
I love the way that you seductively looked into the camera when you said that.
Of course, man, I try. So, any thoughts on that one?
I think I've got that one pretty much straight away. I'll be honest. Yeah.
I thought quite a few people would, but it's an interesting one. So
good stuff. Absolutely good stuff. Okay, so that about wraps up today's episode, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does indeed. I mean, what an episode as well. 1 year, Tom. It's been like 32 podcasts, 12 months. Like, the fan base has been amazing. We've grown, interacting with people who are like just as bigger fans as us, and us as well, like chatting to each other, talking about Bond, the buzz, the SPECTRE reveal, the title reveal. That's got to be one of the plus points, is listening to your reaction to SPECTRE being announced. I mean, that put a smile on my face. And my Lieutenant Hip quote, I know that was high up on your sort of list of things that you liked. And
that was good.
It has been amazing. It's been a brilliant, fantastic year, and I'm glad we've reached this point now, because I can see it definitely going for another year. Beyond that, who knows? I'd love it to keep going. We've got loads of stuff still to do. Film-wise, we're up to Live and Let Die. We've got Man with Golden Gun coming up soon. There's still a load of films to do. We've got lots of books to do. We've got untold amounts of interviews with like brilliant, brilliant guests. We've got other aspects of Bond that we can chat about. There's so much. Obviously with SPECTRE as well, coming out soon. Well, this year. It's just a prime time Bond.
The way I see it, man, by the time we get to the end of all the movie reviews, it'll have been so long since we watched Dr. No that we might as well just go all the way back to the beginning and start all over again.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. And also, I mean, the early movie reviews, because we did kind of restrict ourselves a bit on time, so maybe they do deserve a little bit of a 3-hour bash rather than a 60-minute or something. But anyway, that's for the future. So lots of good stuff, and let's hope our second year is as excellent, as productive, and as rewarding as the first.
Absolutely. I've got a feeling in my waters that says it's just going to keep going up and up and up until we reach an all-time high.
Oh, so I see what you did there. That was brilliant. Yeah.
There we go. So don't forget, if you want to get a James Bond Radio t-shirt, head on over to jamesbondradio.com/t-shirt. And grab one of those. Remember, we've got to shift 50 of them for the t-shirt to go into production. So don't delay, because they'll only be available for a limited amount of time. So make sure you get involved now and grab your t-shirt, because, when everybody turns up at the Pinewood event later in the year, everybody be wearing their James Bond Radio t-shirts.
That would be awesome. That would be so cool.
To spot everybody, it'll be good fun. Absolutely. So next time we're gonna keep the next episode a little bit of a secret, aren't we? We're gonna reveal a little hint to that next Friday.
We will indeed.
So make sure you come and join us on Facebook for that. But it's going to be a good one.
Should be good. Excellent. Well, I've been Chris Wright.
I've been Tom Sears.
No, it's been a pleasure, guys. Hope you've enjoyed a year of James Bond Radio, and we'll be back soon.
Absolutely. See you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
We're an all-time high, D. We'll change all that's gone before, doing so much more than falling in love. On an all-time high, squeedy D. We'll take on the world and win. So hold on tight. Let the flight begin.